Chapter 722. By the time the aunt and nephew left the office building, the golden-red rays of the late spring setting sun had already traversed more than half of the campus. The rays were cast from the angle between the North Shore jungle and the Long River, casting a thick film of light over the bright green wetland vegetation. Luo Nan slightly narrowed his eyes. His gaze pierced through the layer of sunlight that ordinary people would find hard to look directly at. He swept his gaze over the movement and changes within the campus. He wasn't observing. He just had nothing to do. Mrs. Luo Shuqing didn't say a single word for an entire 3 minutes after leaving Li Mingda's office. She just walked forward in the corridor, in the elevator, and in the vast campus. It was as if she had completely forgotten the existence of her nephew. Okay, she was really angry this time. Luo Nan reckoned that he was probably the only child of the Luo family in 3 generations to have been recommended by the school authorities to take a leave of absence from school. Taking a leave of absence from school was just a polite way of saying it. Retaining the school credits, hours, honor, and so on and so forth didn't change the essence of having to repeat a year. Without a doubt, this was the vile incident of being hung from a beam and ruthlessly whipped. Luo Nan really didn't know what to say. He had the help of Xie Junping and Hu Huaying, 2 super tinkers with connections that reached the heavens, but he still couldn't make up for the lowest standard of absenteeism at Acumen College. He had really been too arrogant these past few months. Perhaps he should start with the SCA and invade the Department of Education system. Luo Nan's mind spun with meaningless thoughts. At the same time, he had no choice but to admit that there was a little bit of relief and delight in the depths of his heart at the very least. If this matter were to really be smashed, then his life would really change. Mrs. Luo Shuqing suddenly stood still in front of him. Luo Nan reacted quickly and stood firm at the same time. His face hung low and his eyebrows lowered, making a terrified and ashamed appearance. Unfortunately, his acting skills were never up to par. Luo Shuqing's heart didn't fluctuate in the slightest. Her tone was flat as well. Do you have a lot of things to deal with over there? Huh? Yeah. Of course Luo Nan knew that the so-called over there referred to the society and even the inner world. Normally at home, this was a topic that everyone was well aware of but tacitly didn't touch upon. Luo Nan really didn't know how to respond when it was suddenly brought up today. Fortunately, Luo Shuqing did not need Luo Nan to make up any more excuses or lies. She had her own observations and judgments. I can guess that you've done quite well over there. Your uncle and I haven't given you any help, but you've been able to drag out the matter of skipping classes until today. And you've done it in this manner. Don't look at your uncle just because he's in the SCA. I'm afraid that even if he sold his old face, he wouldn't be able to do a better job than this. What could Luo Nan say? With great difficulty, he swallowed back the stupid words of, "Aunt, you're too kind." He could only shut his mouth tightly and listen obediently. The problem was that Luo Shuqing only said this and didn't say anything else. Luo Nan wanted to ask, but he didn't dare to. His bellyful of suspicions was stifled to the point of being uncomfortable. It wasn't until he walked another 100 steps that he heard his aunt speak softly, about the suspension. I'll go back and discuss it with your uncle, okay? When it came to Luo Nan's studies, Mrs. Luo Shuqing had never used such an uncertain tone to converse with him like she did today. Luo Nan was stupefied for a moment. Then he felt the heavy pressure of making a choice. He was actually speechless for a time. The two didn't take the trolleybus. They walked to the underground parking lot. Halfway there, Luo Nan was really unable to resist this overly oppressive atmosphere. He just wanted to say something, but when the words reached his mouth, a sentence suddenly jumped out. "Aunt, do you know of Wu Jun?" Huh? Luo Nan was a bit regretful as soon as the words left his mouth. The matter that happened to Ling Chen occupied far too much of his brain. Aside from the conflict between the Amaterasu order and the Xia Luo order over the Holy Cloak, there were also the words that Luo Nan was extremely sensitive to in the conversation between Yan Fen and Zhang Luan. Things like, crazy old man, graduate student, suspension, and so on. Luo Nan couldn't help but think of something. It was just that he knew very little about the events of the past. His interpersonal relationships were even more muddled. He resisted the urge to ask in detail when he was in the karst cave for the sake of maintaining his cool and for the convenience of monitoring in the future. After returning to Xia City, he circled around inside and out. It seemed that his aunt was the only person he could ask a thing or two about. Even so, it wasn't good to mention this, right? Luo Nan was unable to explain the logic behind his question. Luo Shuqing turned to look at him just as he was feeling awkward. Wu Jun. Which Wu Jun? Luo Nan gaped, unable to speak for a time. Was he supposed to say, the priestess of the Xia Luo order? The female owner of the machine modification shop in the black market exchange in the U-Hole far away in Spring City? Luckily, his current thinking speed far exceeded that of normal people. He immediately captured the astonished emotions behind his aunt's words. So he was just stifled for a moment before he quickly asked back, I'm talking about that, graduate student. Luo Nan deliberately blurred out a few words in the middle. In the end, he ended with accurate and truthful information. Reality proved that his methods were very successful. Mrs. Luo Shuqing immediately filled in the blanks with her imagination. Her brows furrowed slightly. You saw Wu Jun. When did she return to Xia City? Oh my, there's actually a way. Luo Nan still wanted to confirm things. He spoke cautiously, that Mrs. Wu. She's my grandfather's graduate student. Did she stay in the wilderness for many years? Yes. Wu Jun was recommended to your grandfather's laboratory in the year 75, right after your parents. She was only 20 years old at the time. She was still a silly little girl. Where did you see her? Was it a chance encounter, or did she come looking for you? Luo Nan felt that his aunt was quite nervous, and he was suspicious. Was it because she knew of Wu Jun's current identity? Or was there some other sensitive situation that she didn't want him to know about? Luo Nan pondered in his mind, but he still spoke half-truths and half-lies. I've never seen her before. I just heard about her from someone else's mouth. I just asked in passing. Who told you? It was senior sister Tian Si. She's the one who went on a blind date with third brother Mo Chiu. In the end, it didn't work out. Right now she's a graduate student of Professor Pan Wen of the Institute of Architecture and Design. You seem to have met her some time ago. Luo Shuqing had a bit of an impression. She nodded and let out a breath of relief subconsciously, indeed. Professor Pan's younger brother, Dr. Panda, helped to evaluate and recommend the group of graduate students that went to the wilderness back then. You're quite familiar with that senior sister Tian. You're even talking about these old matters. Professor Pan likes to talk the most, especially about things related to my mother. Senior sister Tian is influenced by the company she keeps. She usually divulges a bit of information to me. Luo Nan laughed innocently and immediately said, speaking of which, was that Mrs. Wu always in the wilderness? Back then, our family's laboratory was already gone. What was she doing over there? Luo Shuqing laughed involuntarily. She graduated in 81. When the accident happened in the lab in 83, she had nearly 10 years of work experience. There were many large companies that wanted to recruit her. Really? Right now, Wu Jun didn't look like she was being recruited by a large company. Luo Nan felt that his aunt seemed to be avoiding some information. He immediately asked, You're so clear about this matter. Has Wu Jun always been in contact with our family? No. We haven't seen each other in many years. Oh. How long has it been? It's been around 6 or 7 years. The last time I saw her was around 90 years ago. Huh. I should be able to remember things back then. How come I don't have any impression of her at all? She doesn't come often. She just comes every 1 or 2 years to see your grandfather and understand his condition. She goes straight to the sanatorium. How could there be such a coincidence? Hey, why do you have so many questions? Do you have bad intentions in your stomach? How could that be? Luo Nan understood that it would be very difficult to get any more information from his aunt for the time being. And the things he knew right now were quite valuable. 90 years. This time period was extremely sensitive to Luo Nan. This was because it was from that year that he began to refer to his grandfather's notes. He began to research formatting theory without any hesitation. It was also in that year that Yen Hong's academic misconduct came to light. Quantum Corporation's Deep Blue platform began its trial operation. Of course, the last time his father showed his face and gave him the flexible e-ink screen with the external neuron was also in the same year. If the time and background were shifted to Wu Jun's side, well, Polio would be around 5 or 6 years old. It was as Yen Fen said. Wu Jun was forced to take over when she was pregnant. This should have happened around this time. Huh? Luo Nan suddenly stood there stupidly. His mind churned with a rather absurd thought. Then it got out of hand. Wait. Wasn't he thinking too much? A human's thought process was like this. A sudden association was able to forcefully knead two matters that were separated by thousands of miles. It was similar to a montage style of editing, forming an inconceivable effect. Luo Nan was currently carrying out an inappropriate association. Before a certain person disappeared, Wu Jun maintained contact with her family. After she disappeared, she didn't come back. At the same time, around the time of her disappearance, Wu Jun became pregnant. Motherf ****. Luo Nan fiercely smacked his forehead. They had already entered the underground parking lot. The sound of this slap was extremely loud and clear in this relatively enclosed space. Luo Shuqing looked at him in astonishment. Luo Nan came to a realization and hurriedly suppressed the absurd thoughts in his mind. He revealed a smile to his aunt. It's nothing. It's nothing. I was just a bit stupid. You really were stupid. Luo Shuqing's anger was finally provoked. She glared at him fiercely and quickly walked to the side of the car. She sat in the driver's seat first. Luo Nan lowered his head and sat in the front passenger seat. He had a remorseful expression. Actually, he had already logged onto the psychic wave network. He used the Hexier to communicate with others. Of course, he could only send a message, urgent. Reply when I see the message. Approximately 2 minutes later, when the car was on the high-speed magnetic track heading home, the other side finally responded, you were in such a hurry that I dropped my test tube. Boss Luo, what are your orders? Bro Octopus, I have a bit of skin tissue from last night. Can we do a paternity test with this? Did you bring hair follicles? I did. That's not a problem. Speaking of which, both of them are. I have the relevant backups at the society. It's better to collect them recently. The other side's message suddenly stopped. A full 10 seconds passed before an emoticon was sent over with a thought. Chapter 723. Nanster, did you kill someone? I didn't. But you messed up. I didn't. Then why did you do a paternity test? I did a paternity test for different mothers. Then it was your dad messing around. Believe it or not, I'll really kill someone. Luo Nan had to endure the wild bombardment of friends and family on the psychic wave network from evening to after dinner. There was also a family meeting about taking a leave of absence from school in the middle. He was mentally and physically exhausted before 9 o'clock. He just wanted to cover his head and sleep when he returned to his room. The after effects of the situation continued to spread. According to Bamboo Pole's estimates, by tomorrow morning, news of the proponent of the cage and configuration theory, the mental side genius Professor Luo Nan conducting a secret paternity test and suspected of having an illegitimate child would fill all the major forums, discussion groups, tabloids, and other platforms of the inner world. It would become one of the hottest topics of conversation in the inner world. The culprit, Octopus, was in a stupefied state. He was quite unlucky. When Luo Nan contacted him, he was working as a volunteer in the branch's biological laboratory. He was being exploited. He was so busy that his brain was a bit desensitized. From what he saw at the time, Luo Nan's request was too simple. Any assistant would be able to handle it. So he really did hand this matter over to his assistant. There was even a sampling service. And so, the beautiful and cute Miss Assistant, who had a screw loose in her head and a slightly wide lip structure, was driving to Luo Nan's house when the news completely exploded. In a sense, this was a very serious leak. It was said that Yueyin had dragged Octopus off the laboratory table and thrown him into the interrogation room. Then Octopus used the room as a refuge. He crouched down holding his head and refused to come out. The problem was that Luo Nan was several dozen kilometers away, staring coldly at him. Luo Nan was considering whether or not he should give Octopus a taste of heaven's punishment. In the end, Luo Nan held himself back. He didn't want this big news to get out. He could only force himself to concentrate and think about matters related to the Xia Luo sect. Even though the paternity test results had yet to come out, Luo Nan could confirm that this tiny sect had a very close relationship with his grandfather and the wilderness laboratory of yesteryear. Wu Jun, the high priestess of the church, was his grandfather's graduate student. They had worked together in the laboratory for many years. Even after the accident in the laboratory, they still kept in touch. It was a small order that was closely related to their family. It had endured for so many years, stumbling and stumbling. Not to mention the story behind it, just its existence alone was enough for Luo Nan to pay considerable attention to it. Especially when they were facing a huge problem. It was not just the Amaterasu cult. It seemed like the foundation of their cult was in trouble as well. A cloak, that's right. His grandfather had said the word cloak more than once, but Luo Nan had always believed that the so-called cloak should correspond to the curtains of developer mode on the mental plane. In other words, it was the scene of a myriad of overlapping curtains when Luo Nan first used clairvoyance on the mental plane. So there's a real thing. Luo Nan was truly a bit confused. At the same time, he grew more and more curious. He hated that he couldn't immediately meet First Ablatum Wu Jun and get to the bottom of things. Unfortunately, they had missed the opportunity this time, and according to Yen Fun, that person wouldn't be back in a short period of time. TSK, I actually forgot to ask for his contact information. Of course, even if I had asked for it back then, Yen Fun probably wouldn't have given it to me. I'm just observing for now. Yen Fun will certainly have to give me an explanation after such a huge change happened in my family. But according to her, Wu Jun went to the wilderness and was part of the Order's secret operation. It's basically impossible for her to use a satellite phone, a tool that exposes her target. Communication between the two sides is pretty much cut off. Luo Nan casually grabbed the flexible e-ink screen and wrote and drew on it. He pondered over how to quickly lock onto and contact Wu Jun. The Xia Luo Order might have a method of contacting the extraordinary pathway, but the possibility isn't high. After all, their strength looks quite impressive. Even Yen Fun, a high-level existence, only has a C-rank fleshly body. Then I'll just have to use the stupid method. I'll just search the entire world. Where there was demand, there was motivation. Luo Nan knew how difficult it was to advance, and he quickly came up with an action plan with his own characteristics. The virtual brain system has a ready-made algorithm for recognizing facial features. Finding Wu Jun's photo and information is far too easy. I can see it right now. Though it consumes quite a lot of resources, I can treat it as an in-depth training in big data processing. I can still use it when I get back to the Cloud Mist Labyrinth. Oh, I need to use ready-made resources. Wu Jun isn't a vagrant of the wilderness. She's a legal citizen with an account in the social authority system. I can ask Sister Yueyin to help me search for her recent whereabouts. She'll most likely leave traces as long as she passes through a city. But the problem lies in the fact that if Wu Jun is carrying out a secret operation, the possibility of her disguise is quite high. She'll also pay attention to avoid the area covered by authority. A simple search based on facial features and authority won't be very useful. This will be quite troublesome. The characteristics of the form, soul, and energy were the best to touch upon the essence. Luo Nan stopped writing and sighed. Perhaps he was still too anxious. If he continued to toss and turn like this, it would take at least a week. He would consume a large amount of strength every day, and it was very likely that he would do useless work. He didn't forget that the most pressing task right now was to get used to the biochemical reactor he brought back from Spring City as soon as possible. He needed to erase the hidden dangers of the cloud world as soon as possible. Oh, look at what I've drawn. Right now on the flexible e-ink screen, there was a list of simplified steps and keywords to take note of. There was a schematic diagram of the algorithm needed for a global search. There was a basic outline of Wu Jun's store that was being monitored from 2,000 kilometers away. In addition, there were also some lines that outlined a somewhat fuzzy portrait of a person in the center of the drawing interface. This was a woman. She had short hair and a thin face. She wore rather large work clothes. Her body was half squatting and half kneeling in the drawing. She leaned close to the outline of a machine. She even held a repair tool in her hand. She was like a blue-collar worker, but she had a rather weak appearance. The first thing Luo Nan could confirm was that he had never seen this person before. Regardless of appearance or temperament, she was very unfamiliar. But soon he confirmed that this woman who had suddenly appeared in the center of the drawing interface was none other than the Wu Jun he was looking for. How did I draw it? It's like this. Luo Nan quickly came to a realization. This sketch was something he found in an electronic photo frame placed in his bedroom when he was observing Wu Jun's store from afar. Then he unconsciously reproduced it. Luo Nan's work was a bit different when compared to the finalized photo. It looked like there was more meaning to it than in the photo. This didn't seem to be just a result of his black and white art style. Luo Nan was a bit surprised by the results of his own creation. But his current thinking and knowledge were far from what it was like when he first entered the profession. He stared at the sketch drawing and analyzed it in detail for a moment. He was certain in his heart, yes. I specifically talked about this when I was discussing with Mr. Bai and the others about entering dreams, divination, and other psychic techniques. This is the magnetization effect. It was just like how non-magnetic materials could obtain magnetism if they were placed in a strong magnetic field for a long time. A person would also form an effect similar to magnetization if they lived in the environment for a long time. From a rational perspective, the result of magnetization was the hair, fingerprints, utensils, trash, and other traces left behind in the target's life. Outstanding criminal investigators and profilers could use these clues to piece together a relatively complete image. This included emotions, temperament, lifestyle habits, preferences, and so on. But from a psychic's perspective, these objective traces could be absorbed by their special clairvoyance mode, which was filled with personal colors. Then they could be reorganized and restored to a more intuitive image of material and even an answer. The inner world called this the magnetization effect of a spiritual magnetic field. It was a terrible description that was filled with pseudoscience. Luo Nan was more willing to call it the interference of the spiritual core. This was a term he translated from the virtual brain system. It couldn't be called sincere and elegant. And with Wu Jun's situation, she was basically unable to reach the level of Luo Nan and Mrs. Halder, who had formed a clear and distinct core of concept, the level of the spirit-binding core. But being able to place everyone under the same standard and conduct a more intuitive comparison was always more in line with the human mode of thinking. It looked like Luo Nan's condition today was quite good. Then it wouldn't be a bad idea to try psychic. In a certain sense, this was a shortcut for Rue Wen to traverse through space. If she could cross over. The digital pen in Luo Nan's hand drew on the flexible screen's work area. He tried to add a new element to this work, a more directional element. Maybe the cloak would be good. It was as if a myriad of curtains crisscrossed and flew in the air before Luo Nan's eyes. They extended into the boundless depths, forming a marvelous scene that Luo Nan jokingly called developer mode. Of course, this scene had a deeper level of meaning, but Luo Nan didn't need to analyze it right now. He just treated it as a kind of creative element, trying to add it to the sketch work that was nearing completion. A clear purpose formed a kind of stimulation, causing Luo Nan's thoughts and emotions to diverge. He connected them in a series of disturbances. An even deeper and more complex scene was excavated from the memories of his brain. At the same time, it was excavated from the 500 million square kilometers of land and sea, the tens of billions of humans, and the tens of billions of species of life. Objective facts, subjective emotions, simple desires, complex thoughts. Everything formed a sea of information that was enough to crash the brain of any powerful individual. Even though Luo Nan had the external neuron to protect his body and the virtual brain system to keep watch, he wouldn't take the risk to do some analysis. He just relied on his intuition and a few willful emotions that were close to his aesthetics. He picked a few characteristic points at random and used them as a foundation to draw a silhouette of the modeled sea of information. The digital pen finally dropped down. In a short few seconds, Wu Jun's portrait, which was already a bit fuzzy in the drawing area, was nearly completely hidden under the shadows of the simulated ink. It was as if it was submerged by the surging waves of the sea under the curtain of night. Chapter 724. Ocean Waves. Ocean. This was a concept with practical significance. Luo Nan used such a marvelous method to grasp the first fragment of rational significance from the intuitive information of the primal chaos. The electronic pen paused for a moment, then it spun on Luo Nan's fingertips. With this spin, the entire world sensing network of 500 million square kilometers shrunk by a third. The source of information provided by the billions of humans and billions of living beings was cut off by at least half. Of course, what remained was an enormous amount of information. It was mottled and turbid. There were no meaningful details that could be described. But Luo Nan's choice created some sort of direction for them. It was no longer a vast expanse of haze. Instead, it flowed, forming a general direction and trajectory. In this stage, the information directly gathered from the material plane of reality naturally retreated to a supporting position. And the subjective information that went through the perception, thought, and processing of humans and other living beings formed a torrential turbid flow that surged forth. The turbid flow did not flow in the direction of north, south, east, or west. It did not surge up and down. Instead, it followed the special dimension of the human heart. It rushed forward under the relatively restricted external environmental conditions. It was also at this stage that the guiding strength of the virtual brain system's rules toward Luo Nan weakened. The wraith sign in the depths of the void spontaneously leaped out, wantonly swimming within the turbid flow of the human heart. Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped lightly. If this were 4 months ago, he would not have furrowed his brows no matter how the wraith sign leaped. But after discovering the abyssal sun disk, Luo Nan could not help but ponder every time the wraith sign acted spontaneously. Then again, there was no point in pondering. Could Luo Nan shield himself from the influence of the abyssal sun? The answer was no. In reality, Luo Nan had endured the heat conduction of the abyssal sun disk every moment of the past 4 months. Although he would ignore this heat conduction most of the time due to the difference in degree, this objective fact existed on the subjective mental plane. It still existed in a powerful anchoring manner. This was especially true when Luo Nan temporarily abandoned the virtual brain system to explore the mysteries of the turbid flow of the human heart. This influence was even more direct. In this sense, Luo Nan had taken the initiative to step into the domain of the abyssal sun disk. He went to observe and learn the rules and laws that affected the control of emotions and desires. Since that was the case, there was nothing more to say. Luo Nan's subtle state of mind was like a drop of water thrown into the sun. It evaporated without a trace in an instant. Correspondingly, he calmly accepted the heat that came from the abyss sun wheel. He went a step further to experience the vague laws behind the heat. It was at this moment that a great sun leapt out of the boundless turbid ocean, radiating scorching light and heat, as well as even more penetrative and even destructive power to every level of the turbid ocean in the human heart. Some emotions and desires were instantly vaporized. Some were blown into pieces and lost all meaning on all levels. However, there were still some that, under the bombardment of stimulating energy, revealed information that was previously hidden even deeper. The turbid currents, which had been chaotic in the first place, became even more chaotic. However, under the powerful blast of the Abyss Sun Wheel, the meaningless and low-level information was almost wiped out. What was left was the marvelous water plants and floating objects. Hiss! Cat Eyes woke up from her nightmare once more. The shadow of the human-faced arachnid was annihilated within the brilliant sun disk. However, the crisscrossing chains became even more twisted and taut. There was even a chain that clutched her neck, dragging her along with the vast and boundless chains and spiderweb into the depths of the turbid current. The spiderweb forcefully churned within the turbid current, entangling countless impurities and trash. Of course, there were some catches that Cat Eyes could not understand. She herself was one of the catches. She had long since been bound to it, unable to escape. And no matter how much Cat Eyes struggled within the turbid flow, no matter how deep she was pulled, the intense light and heat that came from the brilliant sun wheel would always envelop her. It reached far and wide and pervasive. It increased the temperature layer by layer, causing her already extremely fragile willpower to distort, collapse, and boil over together with the impatient emotions at the bottom of her heart. During this process, Cat Eyes felt Luo Nan's gaze. It was not focused on her. Instead, it was focused on all things within the turbid ocean. It was focused on all the distorted and fragmented images and information. Therefore, his gaze was dignified and cold. It blended together with the powerful light of the sun disk, dictating the life and death of all things within the turbid ocean. He was aloof and remote, like a god. Cat Eyes was unfortunate. This was because she understood the source of all unforeseen events more clearly than the ignorant existences around her. Therefore, she was the equivalent of looking directly at a god. She endured an even deeper level of destructive pressure. However, Cat Eyes was fortunate. At the very least, she was within the scope of the rules of this grand system. She was close to a god, possessing a bit of the right to pray or beg. Huff. Huff. Cat Eyes' breathing was still heavy for a long time after she woke up. It was the same as every time after a nightmare. Her clothes were completely drenched, and the bedsheet beneath her was not able to escape from misfortune. A large amount of heat was lost, and the mental exhaustion was 10 times, 100 times greater. It caused her to hover on the brink of collapse. She wasn't even willing to get up. She just raised her eyelids with great difficulty and looked at the ceiling. Her vision was completely unfocused. Instead, Yuan's words from the early hours of the morning echoed in her ears. He is currently probing the world. What he probed out was a storm that stirred the world. That wasn't stirring. It was a calamity. Unknowingly, the angle of the sunlight from the outside world had shifted. It shone through the gap in the curtains and fell on the end of the bed, forming a bright edge of light. It also lightly stuck to her smooth calves, bringing a slight warmth. Cat Eyes instinctively twitched. Her calves shrunk back. She could not help but recall the reality of her nightmare, the memory of being illuminated by the radiant sun. Unfathomable and pervasive. It was easy to find adjectives, but the experience of being penetrated, of being peeled open, of having no privacy from the inside to the outside, of having no cover at all. Even the most basic of self-esteem was unbearable. You bastard who bites the hand that feeds you. Cat Eye's little favorable impression of Luo Nan had only been separated by 2 nights, but it had turned to ashes under the roasting of the sunlight. Of course, she definitely would not keep these words bottled up in her heart. Cat Eyes simply dialed Luo Nan's hexaear number, threw these words over, and hung up in an instant. Luo Nan responded in an instant, taking the initiative to call back, "Sister Cat Eyes, are you okay?" Even though it was the psychic wave network, there were some things that could not be said too clearly on this public line. Cat Eyes responded snappily, "Don't bother me." Then she hung up. Luo Nan was well behaved. His revenge was basically a success. But why was it that his revenge, which was supposed to be a form of venting, carried with it a wondrous fear, excitement, and even an inflated sense of accomplishment? Bastard! Cat Eyes cursed once more. She pounded the bed, but in the end, she still crawled up. She fiercely pulled the curtains tight, not letting a single bit of light leak through. Only then did she go and freshen up. A hot bath really did help soothe the mind. Cat Eyes at least had the appetite to eat breakfast by the time she came out of the bathroom. She also skimmed through the news in passing. There were no surprises. Aside from 2 or 3 authoritative news platforms that maintained a bit of modesty, the various media apps, forums, and discussion groups of all sizes of the inner world had already been overrun by gossip such as, Luo Nan secretly did a paternity test, or, became a father at 16. The corner of Cat Eye's lips twitched, but she still did not laugh. Indeed, there was nothing funny about it. This was because Cat Eyes and other women who had a close relationship with Luo Nan were all within the scope of the sputtering attacks. Aside from Cat Eyes, Zhang Yingying and even He Yueyin were caught up in these rumors. They were all spread around, and some of them were even accompanied by specious photos and video materials. Titles such as, Master Luo's harem actually became rampant for a time. Thanks to the genius teacher Luo, Cat Eyes actually had the momentum to become an internet celebrity of the inner world overnight. TCH. Go find Her Majesty Empress Wu if you have the guts. With that person's high profile, there was no need to blindly take photos. There were plenty of photos and videos. During this time, Cat Eyes received messages of comfort and ridicule from her circle of friends one after another. She was basically unperturbed by this. From her perspective, if she really had to be tossed around like last night from time to time, then it would be better for her to be killed. She finished eating breakfast, but before she could even tidy up, her ears vibrated slightly. A new message was sent over, and it came from Luo Nan. Cat Eyes received it, and her eyelids twitched. It was a form, and the title was, Paternity Relationship Appraisal Opinion. Alright, after eliminating the meaningless standard phrases and the long list of gene loci, the final analysis and appraisal results were meaningful. The DNA typing of samples A and B at the 20th TR gene loci tested this time is unable to detect homologous hereditary genes. This does not conform to the laws of Mendelian inheritance. According to the results of the DNA genetic marker typing, it does not support the existence of a blood relationship between sample A and sample B. This was great. All the holes in one's imagination were slapped to death in the blink of an eye. Cat Eyes whistled, but before her voice could fall, the other side had already retracted the message. What came next was an awkward emoticon, I sent it wrong. I should have sent it to my friends and family to prove my innocence. Cat Eyes was stunned. She was really unable to match this awkward emoticon and message with the cold and dignified gaze from last night. Is there really nothing wrong with this fellow? Is there something wrong with me? Her thoughts flowed absent-mindedly. Only after a long while did she reply with a perfunctory, what a pity. This could be considered her usual attitude of taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. The other side instantly replied with another message, but this time it was a hand-drawn sketch. The center of the image seemed to be that of a woman, but the shadows of the lines were smeared away. All that was left was a faint blurry silhouette. And behind this blurry silhouette, there was a technique of perspective. The depth of the image was realized, and another silhouette was outlined. As for why she noticed it, it was because Luo Nan had deliberately marked this silhouette. It looked like. Chapter 725. The Psychic Drawing. Hee. After tossing and turning for an entire night, this was what came out. Cat Eyes endured the loathsome sun as she headed west from her home in the city center. She crossed several hundred kilometers to arrive at the black market in the outskirts of the satellite city of Xia City, Mangzhong. All of this was thanks to Luo Nan and his latest work. She had not forgotten that she had fallen into this pit in the first place because of this damned psychic drawing. A certain someone actually had the face to ask her to come out and scout for information. What did he mean by, it involves the black market? It's not good to disturb Sister Yuan. It was clearly revenge. Revenge. She was muddle-headed. Why didn't she smash the drawing into that fellow's face back then? Oh, she couldn't hit him even if she did. Ungrateful, despicable demon, shameless to the extreme, still trying to act innocent after getting a bargain. In any case, Luo Nan couldn't hear it. Even if he did, Cat Eyes wouldn't care. So all sorts of negative adjectives and adjectives piled up like they were free. It would be best if she could crush that bastard to death. Cat Eyes kept cursing in her mind. At the same time, she didn't forget to memorize all sorts of details on the psychic drawing, especially the outline of the cruise ship. Luo Nan said that he had blindly drawn it based on his feelings, but this was a psychic drawing. With Luo Nan's current fame, there would probably be plenty of people fighting over it if he were to take it out for auction. The location of the cruise ship on the drawing is too far away. Plus, its silhouette from the side. It feels like it's very high up. The top deck has many wing-like silhouettes. They might be antennas, bridges, and the like. Cat Eyes, whose mind was busy, finally stepped into the vagrant trade center known as the Wild Inn. The style of this cave-like building was closer to the original ecology. There were fewer customers during the day, so the owner took the opportunity to stock up and deliver goods. This place was more like a freight yard than a hotel. The bar on the first floor of the tavern was only open in the corners around the bar counter. The lighting was deliberately dimmed. The atmosphere of private transactions came out, but whether or not it had any practical significance was another matter. At the very least, for the mental Cat Eyes, she could pretty much see the overall layout and all the minute changes after entering the tavern. Oh, is this too coincidental or too unfortunate? Around the bar counter, there were a few private booths pieced together by high-back sofas. The seats were more or less full, and they were all conversing in low voices. Cat Eyes walked in casually, inevitably drawing everyone's attention. Most people only raised their eyes and quickly focused on their own matters. Only the innermost side of the room was a little old man who happened to be facing the outside. He winked at her and bared his teeth. Cat Eyes responded with a wink. She casually pointed to the bar counter beside her, indicating that they should each do their own thing. The stooped, lazy, and spiritless little old man was none other than Xia City's branch's veteran B-rank psychic. At the same time, he was also an expert in soul studies, Mr. Bai. They were all acquaintances and friends. The more it was like this, the more they would pay attention to protecting each other's privacy. Under such circumstances, a simple greeting was enough. On the other hand, the person sitting opposite Mr. White deliberately turned his head and looked at them a few times. Cat Eyes only felt that the fellow looked familiar, but she couldn't recall who he was for a moment. She simply ignored him. She then sat in front of the bar counter. Blood energy, refill. This was both a consumption and a secret signal. Using an expensive drink like blood energy that required honor points indicated that I needed high-end services from the inner world. In the Wild Inn, such high-end services were usually information. As for refill, it indicated that I had an account here. I also made an appointment. The purpose was clear. Don't try to fool me with low-end stuff. The bartender revealed a professional smile. He quickly took out a sealed cup of blood energy from the expensive and sturdy safe beside him and placed it on a tray. Aside from the blood energy, there was also a small flexible screen on the tray. A series of items were listed on the screen. Cat Eyes finished scanning the items on the flexible screen in the time it took her to open the packaging. She then rolled her eyes. You guys are going to go bankrupt here, right? Huh. The time to make an appointment is a bit short. I understand that you didn't make enough preparations, but you don't need to use information from a week ago to trick me. Also, you can count these two small dinghies as cruises. Can your family's cruises enter an underground river? The bartender's professional smile crumbled a bit. He didn't wait for Cat Eyes to respond when a figure came over and knocked on the counter, indicating for the bartender to get lost. Don't embarrass yourself here. Consider today's pay your training fee. Go work hard. The bartender was a bit stunned. Young Master Zong. Go go go. I'm going to chat with my friend. As he spoke, the person who just came over laughed and greeted, "Oh my, little cat, long time no see. You just came out of the hospital. Did you get your alimony payment?" It was this fellow who had been talking with Mr. Bai just now. He even turned his head to size her up. Cat Eyes lifted her eyelids and swept her gaze over the person's face twice. She finally remembered who this round-faced and slightly plump brother was. She didn't say anything. She picked up the blood energy drink and flipped her hand to pour it over. Holy crap! That person suddenly flipped over. His figure could barely be considered nimble, but he was still splashed on his shoulder and the corner of his head by the drink worth 2 honor points. He cut an extremely sorry figure for a time. Cat Eyes didn't follow up with an attack. She only said, "It's yours." "It's mine, it's mine. It's mine." That person accepted the towel the waitress handed over. He hastily wiped his face twice and was willing to accept his punishment. Someone who could speak to Cat Eyes like this was indeed an acquaintance. He could barely be considered a friend. Young Master Zong's name was Zong Yun. He was also a registered member of the Xia City branch. Plus, he had a good father. He was one of the branch's 3B rank fleshly bodies. He was the combat master Mr. Zong Ji, who was famous for his perfect rotation. Although Zong Yun had learned from his family, Zong Yun was a wanderer. He didn't have many accomplishments in the field of combat techniques. He stumbled and barely crossed the C-rank barrier. He had an identity in the society, so he put all his enthusiasm into the world of sensual pleasures. He flew all over the world all year round. He spent very little time in Xia City. Oh right, back in the day, this brother also chased after Cat Eyes. But one time, as an assistant, he personally demonstrated the magic of being pierced through the anus by a flying needle. After that, he kept a respectful distance from Cat Eyes. Please forgive me for today's matter. Last time, that baze from the Order of Justice went crazy with alcohol. He brought a bunch of people and pretty much massacred this place. The experienced ones either died or fled. We, the ones who took over, were helpless. Cat Eyes raised an eyebrow. You're here, little boss. Little boss. Participate in the stock market for fun. Let my old man feel at ease. Oh. Then I wish you good fortune. Cat Eyes swept her gaze over the simple and crude furnishings of the cave. She gave him some auspicious words without any sincerity. Playing in this area of Xia City is a small business. It doesn't have much of a future. I'm counting on my old friend to take care of me. Zong Yun fawningly delivered 2 cups of blood energy. Of course, it was free. If it weren't for my old man getting angry, I wouldn't have invested this money in Xia City even if you beat me to death. If I had the spare time, I could have run to Ban City, T City, or Luo City and invested in a small shop. As long as I could make money from both sides, I might be able to shake it up in 2 years. But here, when I think of the 3 heavyweights and Professor Luo, I tremble. My heart trembles. Cat Eyes picked up the cup and faintly smiled. This was also a vagabond trading house. Disregarding the 3 typical examples that Zong Yun had mentioned. It was not without reason that Spring City had become a market, but this place was a wild inn. The vast majority of vagabond trading houses made money, including the Wild Inn. But this sort of black market that wandered on the fringes of multi-layered society inevitably faced a considerable degree of competition. Its greatest competitor was the internal resource market of the ability user associations and other inner world organizations. Within a large metropolitan area, the ability user associations, secret orders, and other large organizations didn't need to look at reports or look at industries. They only needed to look at whether or not the vagabond trading houses and similar black markets in the vicinity were flourishing or not. The relationship between the two was clearly inversely proportional. At the very least, at the extraordinary level, the more resources a branch of the society or secret orders controlled, the stronger their control over the city, and the smaller the space for the black market to survive. On the other hand, if the large organizations were poorly managed or intentionally connived, or if there were many organizations competing and keeping each other in check, the black market would have the opportunity to expand wantonly. Ban City, which was filled with all sorts of religious sects, T-City, which was known as the paradise for maritime explorers, and Luo City, which was a tax haven, were all in such a situation. And in Xia City, where the three heavyweights were keeping watch, and Professor Luo had appeared out of nowhere, the Wild Inn was destined to only be a single auxiliary function of selling information and transferring supplies. It could only help a limited number of people become rich. On the level of benefits, as soon as the word limited appeared, the foot of the inn would often be smeared with deathly white brains. The Wild Inn had already changed owners 7 times in recent years. The most recent one was the Bays massacre that Zhong Ming spoke of. It happened not too long ago, at the end of last year. It was closely related to the 2 out of 1,000 young miss incident that caused the inner world to become restless. It could be considered to be related to Luo Nan to a certain extent. Cat Eyes recalled her mission when she thought of Luo Nan. She casually pushed the tray and the flexible screen in front of Zhong Ming. Taking care of the business isn't a problem. Now is the time to use you guys. I've already deducted 10 points. Now it's up to you. Yes, yes. Sister Cat will definitely give me a chance to make up for it. Zhong Ming's business attributes were off the charts. He picked up the flexible screen and gave it a few glances. Then he moved to open up the database, preparing to change the information entry. Cat Eyes was a particular person. She understood the order of arrival. She knocked on the bar counter. Mr. Bai is still over there. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'm just helping Blackheart Salt pass on a message. I'm bringing a gift or something. It's awkward for my own people, so I won't get involved. Ha, do you think Mr. Bai can't hear you? Cat Eyes also knew that the Bai and Zhong families were old friends. They had their own ways of getting along, so she didn't need to worry about it. She nodded and raised her cup towards Mr. Bai from afar. This could be considered complete etiquette. Mr. Bai chuckled and waved his hand in response. He didn't look awkward at all. Zhong Ming had just entered the business not too long ago, but his business abilities were decent. He quickly deleted the useless entries on the flexible screen and added many more. He returned it to Cat Eyes. Actually, your conditions are a bit vague. Everyone knows that it's convenient on the sea, but there are far too many similar activities. The ones I picked were all of a scale and style. But you also know that these kinds of activities usually have qualifications. You can't participate just because you want to. Cat Eyes grunted twice and looked at the introduction seriously. Zhong Ming snapped his fingers again. This project can't be waived. But seeing that we're old friends, I'll give you another one for free. This is a project that our group of people worked on. The environment, style, and the goods. They're all pretty good. Zhong Ming lowered his voice and moved closer to speak the last sentence. Chapter 726. Look, it's this ship, the Jade Light. It's basically confirmed to set sail from Ban City next month. It will cross the Pacific Ocean and pass through 5 large metropolitan areas before finally arriving at Luo City. During this time, there will be all sorts of large-scale activities, performances, auctions, fights, gambling, and everything else. Zhong Miao projected an aerial photo of a large cruise ship, the Jade Light, a humpback whale-class mothership cruise ship. 450 meters long, 52 meters wide, 22 decks, top speed 40 knots. It can carry over 15,000 people. The interior has its own dock and can park private yachts. The top deck can take off and land medium-sized fixed-wing aircraft. The cost is close to 3 billion. This was originally Wang Yu's private property, but it was recently donated to the Jade Inspection Society to be used as an event venue. Cat Eye's eyelids twitched when she heard the word aircraft. She cast her gaze towards the aerial photo. She circled around the luxurious business jet parked on the top deck. She really wanted to ask if there were any other angles, but in the end, she asked about another matter. Wang Yu? Jade Inspection Society. Hee. This is a small organization established by a group of us. It's similar to the Brotherhood. Look, my name, Yu means beautiful jade, right? And Wang Yu, his name is the same. It's probably a coincidence. Everyone came together and hit it off. You and Wang Yu. Can you reach them? Don't say that. Cat Eyes looked down on others. Wang Yu's name wasn't special, but there was probably only one Wang Yu in the world who could casually donate a luxury cruise ship worth 2 billion. She was the chairman of Jadeite Investment, one of the largest private shareholders of Quantum Corporation, and possibly the most powerful youth in the world. Don't even talk about Zhong Miao. Even Zhong Miao's father, a veteran B-rank powerhouse and a combat master, Zhong Miao, was an unreachable distance away from her. Hey, you. Don't hit my face when you hit me. Zhong Miao's tone was raised at first, then suppressed. In the end, he could only respond with a mischievous smile. I can't be mentioned in the same breath as Wang Yu, but it's not like the difference between heaven and earth. Look, Blackheart Salt is her girlfriend. I grew up wearing the same pants as her, so why can't I reach her? Huh? Ouch. Zhong Ji also realized that he had made a slip of the tongue. He didn't even dare to turn around to look at Mr. White's old face. He smiled awkwardly and sped up. I have a lot of information here. I'll send you the event app. There will be real-time updates about the performances and the items to be auctioned. You can take a look. I have something to do, so I'll be leaving first. Saying this, Zhong Yun hurriedly went to hide. Mr. White didn't kill him on the spot, and Cat Eyes didn't care about the fate of the surnamed Zhong at all. She just sat quietly in front of the bar, waiting for the relevant information to be sent to her. She looked through it one by one. This was especially so for the pictures of the Emerald Light. After 5 minutes of picking and choosing, she finally found one that felt most similar to the Emerald Light among the hundreds of pictures. After making some adjustments, she formed a silhouette effect and pieced it together with the psychic picture in her hand. After a simple zooming process, the silhouette that was converted from a real-life photo successfully replaced the relatively blurry shadow of the cruise on the psychic map. It was almost perfect. This result, Cat Eyes didn't hesitate at all. She sent Luo Nan the comparison diagram and the relevant information regarding the jadeite light to Luo Nan. Mission complete. She did it in a straightforward and efficient manner. It was simply like the originally expensive cup of blood energy that was now free. She drank the expensive drink that was worth 2 honor points in a single gulp. The warm flow of nourishing energy entered her throat, and great waves surged from the bottom of her heart. Why was it so simple? Why was it so coincidental? Cat Eyes had long felt that Luo Nan's decision to hand this matter over to her was a rather strange one. In terms of intelligence-gathering ability, even if Cat Eyes were to fly a plane, she still wouldn't be able to catch up to He Yuan, who specialized in her field and controlled a large number of channels. What did it mean that it was inconvenient to involve the black market? This sort of reason was completely untenable when she thought about it in detail. Did the sources of intelligence still have to be legal and formal? But the truth was that Luo Nan had forcefully assigned the mission to her. He wanted her to go to the black market to search for clues. Not long after she arrived at the Wild Inn, she bumped into Zhong Yun, an old acquaintance. Zhong Yun just so happened to give her accurate information. Zhong Yun certainly didn't know anything about the cause and effect of the entire matter. He just acted according to his usual temperament and personality. He embodied the friendship of a businessman, nothing more. The series of circumstances in the Wild Inn completely conformed to the chain of logic at the time. There was nothing awkward about it at all. But as she replayed the events in her mind, Cat Eyes felt as if she was on an interior stage called the Wild Inn. She and everyone present had performed a play called Intelligence Gathering together. Every single person on the stage was a movie king with off-the-charts acting skills. The entire play was completed in a single breath. It flowed down in a continuous stream. Not a single trace of a performance could be seen. Perhaps she had drunk too much blood energy. She felt a bit intoxicated. Cat Eyes was in a daze for a time. She couldn't differentiate between reality and illusion. She subconsciously supported herself on the bar counter and stood up. She prepared to walk out. It was at this moment that a slight stimulation from the outside world caused her to fiercely wake up. She turned her head to look and just happened to meet Mr. Bai's puzzled gaze. "Oh, Cat Eyes, you're going back just like that." Cat Eyes stood still. In the end, the experiences of last night, now, and even the recent period of time had caused her some trouble. It was impossible for her to go see a psychiatrist. However, when she coincidentally met an expert in a related field, the preset obstacles were naturally erased. She hesitated for a moment before walking over to the private room. "Mr. Bai, are you looking for someone to drink a few cups with?" Mr. Bai cheerfully extended his hand and gestured for Cat Eyes to sit. Come. We're all drinkers. A few cups is just right. You're not like that little bastard Zong Yun. He's slippery to the point where he can't even touch his hands. I'm afraid the old Zong died with everlasting regret." Cat Eyes found a waiter and ordered 2 bottles of wine. She poured Mr. Bai's wine, but as she was pouring the wine, she heard Mr. Bai sigh. "Big brother, don't laugh at second brother. There's still someone who died with everlasting regret." Clearly, Mr. Bai was talking about his own daughter, Bai Xinyan, who worked for Quantum Corporation and held a high position. Bai Xinyan was a very complicated woman. She had traveled tens of thousands of miles to treat Luo Nan. Their relationship was quite good for a time, but she was also the biggest driving force behind the 2000s of a girl incident. It was just a semi-rumor, but it set off an enormous storm. It nearly caused the power balance of the inner world to collapse. Cat Eyes and Bai Xinyan's friendship was mediocre, so there was no need for her to make any comments. Mr. Bai also did not want to complain to her. He smiled and rubbed against the hot topic. "I don't see you breathing a sigh of relief after the DNA report came out. It's not easy to clear up the misunderstanding." He was clearly talking about Luo Nan's paternity test. The smile on Cat Eye's lips was a bit cold and cynical. Actually, she had always believed that Luo Nan's actions were far more vile than people could imagine for a woman who possessed an independent spirit. However, she was the one who courted death first. Luo Nan's subjective lack of intent caused the entire matter to become vague and unclear. The current problem was the current Luo Nan, a powerful person who could wander in and out and control the will of others. Was he really still a muddled youth? Cat Eyes could not see it. Misunderstandings are very normal. Even if you look at the child with your own eyes, sometimes you can't even feel that it's your own flesh and blood. Let alone outsiders who are completely unaware. Mr. Bai drank a large mouthful of chicken soup for the soul, but the one who drank the most was still himself. At the same time, he poured mouthful after mouthful of the soup into his mouth. It made his figure seem all the more stooped and even pitiful. Cat Eyes did not go along with him. She did not console him. She just drank cup after cup with Mr. Bai. She waited until the little old man's mood had calmed down a bit before she said, "Mr. Bai, I want to ask for guidance. What in the world is the psychic technique?" Mr. Bai went, "Oh," and suddenly raised his head. His mind was clearly roused. Luo Nan is trying to psychic again. He's drawing right? What's the situation? Do you have any works of art on hand? Cat Eyes raised her cup. She smiled and swayed, but she did not say anything. Mr. Bai reacted. She had just asked one question, and he had thrown back 4 questions in a row. This was not proper. He chuckled in amusement and poured himself another cup. This could be considered an apology. Your boss Luo is a first-rate psychic in Xia City. You should go ask him this question. Oh, right. Is he still saying that his psychic technique is just a random drawing, that he's just making up the numbers? Cat Eyes was surprised. She immediately sneered, this is taking advantage of him and then flaunting it. This has always been his style. Mr. Bai slapped the table and laughed out loud. This time, he temporarily forgot about his vexed matters. He was in high spirits as he said, that's right. When he said these words back then, I wanted to slap him. Look at his battle achievements and psychic effects. Even old Yu has times where he makes mistakes. How much is his success rate? 100%. Oh. You psychics have been having quite a few gatherings these past few months. It's always been like this. It's just that Boss Luo didn't participate in the past and you didn't care, so you didn't pay attention. Speaking of psychics in Xia City, most of us have been affected by old Yu's magnetization. Our psychic senses and judgments are quite decent. We have quite a bit of talent in psychic techniques. Oh my. Counting from old Yu, me, Gao Tianshi, and Horned Demon, for consecutive B-rank psychics are psychics. Oh, Her Majesty Empress Wu has a divine and heavenly disposition, so she can't be counted. Luo Nan is the first person who hasn't been affected by old Yu. Also, the bamboo pole can only be considered broken when it comes to him. Mr. Bai checked the name list and commented one by one, here, old Yu is proficient in divination techniques. The tall and fierce Gao Tianshi borrows the self-hypnosis techniques of the ancient religious system. He invites the gods to possess his body. Horned Demon relies purely on his natural endowments. He plays too evil, so let's not talk about it for now. As for me, I engage in dreaming techniques on the mental plane. I construct a dreamland. Hey! Who do you think your boss Luo pays more attention to when it comes to communication? Cat Eyes didn't even need to guess. She saw the smile lines at the corner of Mr. Bai's eyes and lips. She raised her cup and toasted him, there's no need to say more about the obvious. Cheers. Mr. Bai laughed happily, yeah. It's the two of us who get along the most. Horned Demon hasn't met him face to face, so there's no need to talk about it. Old Yu's divination technique requires a deep accumulation of traditional culture. There's also a talent requirement in the area of algebra. We aren't cut out for that. Gao Tianqi's side is pretty much the same. He's a god, and he doesn't really suit his taste. Only my side picks materials on the mental plane. I also have a set of suitable special logic. I have materials and methods. Then I can design a building, arrange a labyrinth trap, put people inside, guide them, tempt them, and dig out deeper information. I can predict a more accurate possibility. Isn't it quite simple and clear? That's why we can discuss it the most. Chapter 727. Mr. Bai's description doesn't break away from the habits of a medical worker. His description is rigorous and conservative. He basically won't go overboard. But when it comes to dreams, emotions, desires, and instincts, the route is a guided transformation from false to real. Making dreams come true is the essence of the art of telepathy. Luo Nan made an evaluation in a proud manner. Unfortunately, he could only say it in his mind. Right now, he sat upright in the classroom. There was a ceremonial feeling of the final lesson. The school's courteous, helpless, and resolute suggestion and the results of the family meeting had basically decided that Luo Nan's 96 to 97 school year would end early. Right now, it was just a matter of going through the motions. As for when he would return to school to continue his studies, there was still no definite date. Luo Nan's appearance in the classroom was completely meaningless in terms of his studies. He just came to hide in peace. The omnipresent gossip was already very annoying. There was also the ridicule from the group of friends and relatives. Though they didn't have any evil intentions, it wasn't good for his concentration. Right now, he sat in the classroom. He automatically blocked out the teacher's lecture and the surrounding noise. He received the information from Cat Eyes and carefully reviewed it. Luo Nan didn't mind Cat Eyes chatting with Mr. Bai and talking about him behind his back. At most, he would just spit out a mouthful. He knew that Cat Eyes had been quite distressed recently. If she had asked him directly, he wouldn't have been stingy in explaining it. But if she didn't come looking for him, he couldn't force himself to say, "I tormented you last night because of OOXX. There's no problem. Just relax and it'll be fine." Oh, he really did feel a bit guilty when he thought about it this way. Luo Nan coughed and took a deep breath. He adjusted his sitting posture and focused his attention back on the projected work area. The information sent over by Cat Eyes, especially the information related to the jadeite light, met Luo Nan's expectations. Cat Eyes had perfectly fulfilled the role of a die. Within the hazy background, she had highlighted a significant factor. Luo Nan's judgment was the same as Cat Eyes. He also believed that the jadeite light cruise ship was extremely compatible with the fuzzy outline he had drawn on the psychic diagram. And he went one step further than Cat Eyes. His body was in Xia City, but his mind had already traveled over 1,000 kilometers. He crossed the open sea and arrived at the large marine metropolis located on the archipelago. Just as the information indicated, the Jade Light was docked at the cruise terminal in Ban City, carrying out intensive preparations for the voyage. At this time, there were a total of 4,279 staff members on the cruise ship. The tourists near the docks, the factories, and so on within 20 square kilometers had about 100,000 people. Luo Nan's mental sensing network was supported by concentrated water molecules. It adhered to the bodies of over 100,000 people. Luo Nan relied on the face recognition algorithms of the virtual brain system to sift through them in a short few minutes. The result was not satisfactory. The Xielua Order's female officiant was not detected. Should I say as expected? Luo Nan maintained an extremely good state of mind. He wasn't dispirited or impatient. After determining that it would be very difficult to make a breakthrough, he temporarily shelved his screening work and returned to the materials. He went through them page by page to see if he could find a new trigger point for inspiration. Wu Jun's matter isn't that urgent. There's still enough time to deal with it. Moreover, in this matter, my thinking and methods are not wrong. Luo Nan reviewed the materials and scrutinized his own methods. He was quite confident in his final conclusion. Luo Nan had lived a relatively peaceful life over the past few months. Aside from the incident he caused in Spring City 2 days ago and the occasional mental wandering that caused trouble for the explorers who were searching for a needle in a haystack, he basically did not have any other major operations. No one was blind enough to provoke him. Therefore, these 4 long months of peace were a period of sedimentation for Luo Nan. It allowed Luo Nan to truly make up for his most lacking extraordinary theoretical foundation. There was the virtual brain system that came from an unknown civilization. It was mature, profound, complex, and rigorous in its configuration and dynamo core design rules. There was also the crystallization of various theories that were still in its early stages on Earth. They were mainly guesses based on experience, but there was no lack of resplendent brilliance. In this way, Luo Nan's behavior and judgment erased many elements of imagination, conjecture, and gambling. His goals became clearer, his methods became more concise, and his self-confidence rose with the tide. The only unpredictable factor in the drawing process of the psychic diagram was the influence of the abyss sun disk. Once he accepted it, Luo Nan didn't believe that there would be any flaws in the other links. I'll use the mental sensing network that covers the entire world to search the environment Wu Jun has lived in and the people she has influenced. I'll search for traces of that special magnetization. I'll also perfectly avoid powerful extraordinary species people who might cause a backlash. Then I'll use the observation and special intuition tempered from my speedwriting practice to extract concise feedback from the vast background information. This is a search and judgment. It's an evaluation and calculation. At the same time, it's an associative creation. This is my forte. Luo Nan's mental senses and the acuity of his psionic senses went without saying. They were top-notch in the world. At the same time, he controlled the wraith sign, allowing him to probe into the depths of a person's emotions at any time. This was the best tool to search for materials. And the sketching technique he practiced since he was young was ingeniously combined with his senses and psionic senses. It formed a logical chain of observation, discovery, capture, reproduction, and reconstruction. The combination of the two formed the core cornerstone of the living starry sky and the large production line of the closed system. This was the fundamental method he used to construct his system. Of course he had confidence. He had to have confidence. Perhaps there were many people in this world whose logical thinking and associative imagination abilities were more powerful than Luo Nan's. There were also many people whose sketching techniques could crush Luo Nan into dregs. However, they would never be able to possess the breadth and depth of perception that Luo Nan possessed. They would never be able to possess the keen grasp of the laws of extraordinary power and the flow of emotions, instincts, and desires that were built upon the dual systems of the virtual brain and the wraith sign. This was the disparity that was essentially insurmountable. This disparity determined whether a sketch was a display of pure artistry or a miraculous display of insight and foresight. Plus, there was the abyss sun wheel. Under the boundless and pervasive light, the emotions and desires of people were like bacteria under a microscope. They were magnified and dancing in an exaggerated manner, full of sensitivity and desire to express themselves. Why did Luo Nan favor the dream-inducing technique so much? It was because the dream-inducing technique was the only method Luo Nan had up until now aside from the similarity in basic concepts. He could partially explain and practice the wraith sign system, receive, and utilize the power of the abyss sun wheel. Of course, the influence of the abyss sun wheel was like an enormous, turbulent wave. It felt good to have the wind and the current go smoothly, but it would overshoot if one wasn't careful. The psychic technique can retrace the past. It can foresee the future. The dream-inducing technique plus the abyss sun wheel, along with my original creative intent, are all aimed at foresight. But right now, the driving force is hard to control, and the information I extract and associate is far too jumpy. I can't find Wu Jun right now. Excluding the possibility of the psychic failing, it's more likely that this matter hasn't happened yet. Luo Nan wrote and drew in the virtual work area, arranging the information he had gathered. He also began to interpret the results of his own psychic technique. If this is the case, then there are quite a few missing links that need to be filled in before the scene of foresight. Oh, I also need to pay attention to the problem of the psychic main body. Wu Jun's whereabouts is a problem I urgently want to know. It is related to my personal interests. Therefore, the construction of the dream-inducing world and the rules of its operation revolve around me. The results obtained through psychic communication and divination must be established on the foundation of my deep participation. In this way, the jadeite light isn't simply a place where Wu Jun will appear. It's the intersection point between me and Wu Jun. I can come into contact with the jadeite light at any time, but the intensity of observation shouldn't be enough. Then do I need to personally go there? The psychic technique isn't tampering with the world line. Instead, it's a kind of observation, grasp, and conjecture of the natural development trend. In other words, if things continue to develop according to normal circumstances, I might have a higher chance of boarding the jadeite light and meeting up with Wu Jun there. 15 minutes ago, the concept of the ultra-luxurious giant ship, the jadeite light, didn't exist within Luo Nan's knowledge. However, the current location of this giant ship was the cruise ship dock of Ban City. Ban City was a place Luo Nan had to go to in the next few days. He needed to make advance arrangements for the purge of the cloud world. He also needed to use the resources of the blood flame order over there to practice and master the new abilities brought about by the biochemical reactor. In particular, he needed to adapt to the short yet powerful explosive period of the weak electromagnetic muscle structure. The situation seemed to have become a bit clearer. But how could he take another step forward? He never had any plans to ride a cruise ship. He didn't even have one now. Who could hold a gun to his head and force him onto the ship? Luo Nan went in circles for the following period of time, but he didn't get any results. Right when he was feeling helpless, the hexier vibrated slightly. Someone was looking for him. Luo Nan raised his eyebrows when he saw the contact. Oh my, this is a broken pot that's broken. He's taking the initiative to deliver his head. The person who sent the communication request was none other than a certain person who had gotten into trouble by mistakenly believing in Big Mouth. Luo Nan let out a breath and directly issued an ultimatum after connecting. Bro Octopus, let's meet in the fighting arena tomorrow. We'll settle our grudges in a single fight. I guarantee I won't kill you. Can I talk about proper business? My proper business has become a world-class tidbit. Why don't you explain it to me? Cough, a professional explanation is definitely no problem for me. According to the YSTR gene locus, you and the other person definitely don't belong to the same paternal line. You need to know that I've even collected a sample from your grandfather. I've even called up the SCA database for your father's genetic records. I can confirm that there isn't even a 1 in 10,000 chance. This is good news, right? Hee hee. Luo Nan could only respond in this manner. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan let out a sigh of relief in his heart with this kind of result. Even though he didn't have any so-called expectations towards a certain person, it wasn't a bad thing to be able to be a bit less disgusting. Also, he could use a more natural attitude to face polio. This was undoubtedly a good thing. Right. This was a good thing. But he still wanted to beat that bastard octopus to death. Octopus laughed dryly a few more times, but he lacked the strength to continue. He simply sent a picture over. The picture was automatically projected onto his retina in the communication state. It should be an automatic photo. The items on the picture were all crooked, but fortunately, the general appearance could be seen. The surface of the thing was wrapped in leather. The pages of paper were folded together in the middle, and they were connected by neatly arranged metal rings. It looked square and heavy, and the whole thing was a bit fluffy. Yes, this was an old notebook. It was an item that had practically been eliminated in the current era. However, the one in the picture clearly fully realized its value. Looking at the stains on the edges, it should be more or less filled with words. Rational thoughts flowed to this point. Only then did the emotional response suddenly surge forth. It was like liquid nitrogen leaking out of control. It instantly froze Luo Nan's expression. He was far too familiar with this form and appearance. In fact, he had one right by his side. Chapter 728. From the Pingjiang district in the southwest of Xia City to the Lilan district in the northeast, there was a large diagonal that ran through the entire city. Normally, this traffic line was known for being busy and congested. Luo Nan rushed out of the classroom. He grabbed a flying beetle before most people got off work and hurried over to the Shangding building. The road conditions were much better than normal at this time, but Luo Nan only felt that it was slow. At this moment, he especially missed the days when Chinikuan and God accompanied him, especially the latter's flying car. It was fast and stable, and it could reach the destination in one stop. It was much better than the metal worms that were circling between the buildings. Luo Nan sat in the car. He was clearly going in a straight line, but he had to make turns. It was hard for Luo Nan to not be impatient. Luckily, Octopus was always online, chatting with him. They're going through the reward channel. They even sent photos and some photocopies. There's no need to doubt the authenticity. It's just that they don't think highly of my title as an agent, so they want you to personally negotiate with them. Thank you, Bro Octopus. At this very moment, the bit of resentment regarding the paternity test had long since been tossed beyond the highest heavens. Luo Nan only had gratitude towards Octopus. Deep gratitude. The reward channel the two spoke of was the mission reward area on the official website of the Ability User Society. It was the only official channel for ability users, their various powers, and organizations to realize employment. Luo Nan's grandfather's notebook was hung here to accept the reward. It was Octopus's doing. It happened at the end of September last year. At the time, Luo Nan had just finished his first mission after joining the Xia City branch. He went to the sanatorium to visit his grandfather and unexpectedly reunited with Octopus, who he had cooperated with on the mission. Luo Nan admired Octopus's ability to concoct drugs. Octopus, on the other hand, was very interested in Luo Yuandao's nerve-strengthening drug formula and the corresponding theory in Luo Yuandao's notebook. The two reached an agreement. Octopus would help Luo Nan concoct the drug, and Luo Nan would authorize Octopus to make a rubbing of the notebook for in-depth research. Later, Luo Nan rapidly broke through the limits of the self-format. Drugs and whatnot were no longer of use to him. Octopus kept on studying Luo Yuandao's notebook and published many papers one after another. He could be considered the first person to open the door for formatting theory. Both sides of the transaction were interesting people. Luo Nan's drug concoction had been set aside, but he believed that Octopus's research on his grandfather's notebook provided solid proof for the value of formatting theory, so he was very satisfied. As for Octopus, the drug concoction conditions he had originally agreed to were now useless, but he didn't want to take advantage of Luo Nan. So he paid out of his own pocket to rent a long-term advertising spot in headquarters' official bounty area, offering a bounty for the whereabouts of Luo Yuandao's notebook. Octopus had mentioned this matter to Luo Nan before, but Luo Nan had forgotten about this matter after half a year had passed until today. Compared to the restless Luo Nan who had heard the good news, Octopus, who had originally intended to use this to make up for his crimes, had regained his rationality earlier. He fiercely gave Luo Nan a heads up, since the other side has proposed negotiations, they certainly won't be satisfied with the bounty on the list. Right now, your status and value are different. The name, formatting theory, has undergone an earth-shattering change compared to before. To be honest, the price hanging on it doesn't match. We have to be prepared for the price to be raised. Yes, I know. Hey, you're clearly going to get ripped off if you negotiate in this state. Don't forget, this is just one of the hundreds and thousands of notebooks your grandfather has. If the first standard is raised too high, then the rest will really explode. No matter how good your credit rating is, it won't be able to fill this bottomless pit. Yes, yes. I know. Fine. Let's find external help. Octopus looked at Luo Nan's dishonest appearance and felt despair. He was a young man. Once his emotions got to his head, he would certainly disregard the consequences. He knew that he wasn't a negotiation expert, and he wasn't someone who could persuade Luo Nan. He could only place his thoughts on someone else. If there's something, find the secretary. I'll ask Vice President He and have her come over to help you negotiate. Yes, yes. I understand. No matter what happened, Luo Nan, who was burning with anxiety, arrived at the Shangding building half an hour later. He headed straight for He Yuan's office upstairs. He Yuan and Octopus were already waiting. The two were in the middle of a discussion about the identity of the person receiving the bounty. He Yuan was very concerned about this point. Since we're going to negotiate face to face, why do we need to remain anonymous in advance? Maybe it's a habitual setting. I'm also used to being anonymous when I shop online. He intentionally changed the subject when you asked him just now. Could it be an acquaintance, an enemy? Octopus felt that he was a good person and didn't have many enemies. He naturally turned his gaze to Luo Nan, who had just pushed open the door and entered. Right now, Luo Nan's mind was filled with notes and notes. He forced a smile at the two and said, "You'll know when you see him. Brother Octopus, I'll trouble you to contact him. We'll talk face to face." "That's fine. But you're just going to talk like this? Shouldn't you be sitting in a boss chair, separated by an office desk, and have a secretary standing next to you or something?" "Hiss, you're wearing a school uniform." Luo Nan knew that Octopus was purposefully teasing him, but he still couldn't help but grin. His mood was a bit more relaxed. "Yeah. I hope they'll give me a discount on account that I'm a poor student. He nodded to He Yuan as he spoke. Sister Yuan, I'll have to trouble you again today. It's what I should do. He Yuan responded with a smile. Today, He Yuan was still dressed in formal business attire. Her hair was tied up, and she wore a simple and generous white shirt on her upper body. Her lower body wore dark-colored trousers paired with heels of the same color. The color was low in saturation, but at the same time, she still looked capable and refreshing. She looked a bit more gentle than usual. Needless to say, this kind of makeup, her slightly drooping cheeks, her solemn and dignified aura, and she quietly stood slightly behind Luo Nan. She really did have the style of a first-class secretary. It was just that the school uniform of a certain someone in front of her was too out of character. I'll be in charge of communication. You'll be in charge of showing your face. Secretary, he will be in charge of negotiating the price. The division of labor is clear. We can't interfere with each other. Especially when negotiating the price. Do you understand? The three people stood in front of the office desk. Octopus opened up the communication function of the official bounty channel. Since this wasn't an instant communication, Octopus didn't expect Luo Nan to pick up immediately. He seized this time to brainwash Luo Nan with high intensity. Luo Nan let out a breath and was just about to respond when he saw the projection in front of him open automatically. It showed that Luo Nan had received the message and had agreed to make a video call. Ah, he's here. The gazes of the three people focused on the projection area at the same time. First, a deep blue sky appeared over there. There seemed to be the whistling sound of the wind. The camera here shook endlessly. A face that seemed to be male entered and exited the image several times. It was only after a few adjustments that it finally stabilized. Oh, Luo Nan, Boss Luo. I see the real person. It really was a male. He spoke in a slightly resounding tone and spoke in a familiar manner. He felt like a rather extroverted person. Truth be told, this person's appearance was a bit simple and clumsy. His forehead was quite a bit wider than an ordinary person's. His eye sockets were deep, making his forehead look like a deformed bulge. It was quite eye-catching. Luo Nan subconsciously examined him. Oh, why does he look a bit familiar? Have I seen him somewhere before? A thought suddenly sprouted in his mind. Before he could react, he heard Octopus groan to the side, crap. The person in front of him had already cracked a smile at this time. He laughed happily. This is the first time we've met. But you should have heard of me before. I'm a horned demon. Ah. Luo Nan was stupefied when he suddenly heard this title. That's right. He really had heard of this name before. Just an hour ago, Mr. Bai was drinking and discussing heroes. He had even mentioned this person. The Horned Demon was the only one Luo Nan had never seen out of the several veteran B-rank psychic types in Xia City. Hold on. They were from the same branch. This should be a good thing. Why did Octopus say crap? Right when Luo Nan was confused, the Horned Demon's line of sight had already shifted. It streaked across Octopus's face and finally stopped at He Yuan. His long and narrow eyes, which appeared especially bright and clear, froze. Then a smile blossomed on his face as his entire face revolved around these eyes. Oh oh oh. Look what I see. A beautiful woman. A woman. The Horned Demon's tone became even more resounding, so much so that there were signs of his voice breaking. He was like a lousy opera singer who began his performance in front of the camera. I don't know how to address this lady. Wait a moment. Let me guess. I don't know anyone from the branch, but there's such a stylish beauty. Don't tell me she's the legendary vice president of the Burners, someone's professional secretary, Mrs. He Yuan? Wasn't his performance a bit too exaggerated? Luo Nan's brows subconsciously wrinkled, and the Horned Demon's face abruptly disappeared from the camera in the next second. This time the camera followed up in a timely manner. It scouted down and captured the figure of the Horned Demon. The camera only reflected the back of the horned demon. This was because the horned demon's knees and hands had fallen to the ground, ignoring the filthy dust and mud. His head heavily smashed onto the countless wrinkles of the red earth wasteland. At the same time, he loudly shouted, "Grandma Yuan, I'm sorry." Luo Nan was stupefied, but Yuan reacted faster as the person directly involved. She whispered in his ear, "I'm going to hide for a bit." Then she flashed out of the door. On the other side of the camera, the horned demon straightened his upper body. He raised his hands in an exaggerated manner before knocking them down again. He was still shouting, "Grandma Yuan, I'm sorry. Grandma Yuan, I'm sorry." After shouting 3 times and kowtowing 3 times, the horned demon crawled up from the ground. He patted off the dust and mud as if nothing had happened. Done. What's going on? Luo Nan was really confused. No matter how much he imagined, no matter how detailed, it was impossible for him to think of this situation. Octopus held his forehead with his hand, covering half of his face. He lowered his voice and said, "This is the reason why the horned demon lingered in the wilderness." Back then, he suffered a crushing defeat against Her Majesty Empress Wu. The agreement he accepted was that he would kneel down and shout, "Grandma, I'm sorry," 3 times whenever he meets a woman within 3 years. Only he could endure this kind of condition. Her Majesty Empress Wu. Right now, it's not related to Empress Wu, right? On the other side of the projection, the horned demon wiped his forehead in passing, but it made the mud even clearer. He didn't care. At the very least, this was what he said, "Right now, it's about the bounty. You guys only put up 10 points. This is too insincere. With Boss Luo's current status, it shouldn't be a problem to multiply it by 100, right? 1,000 points. Why don't you just rob a bank?" Octopus slammed the table. "You think selling you is worth 1,000 points? The horned demon simply didn't respond to Octopus's words. He extended 3 fingers and shook them in front of the camera. Also, the 3 kowtows before were solid enough. Isn't it interesting to watch? Hee hee. That's not free. 3 times. Raise it by 3 times and this notebook will be yours. Chapter 729. Increasing it by 3 times would make it 3,000 points. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan didn't have any special intuition when he heard the number that jumped out of the horned demon's mouth. This was because he had yet to establish a direct perception of the purchasing power of honor points. Octopus slammed the table at this time. "Horned demon, what the hell are you doing? Is the ability user society going to collapse? Are the points useless? Are you King dreaming? Oh my, now that you're following a new boss, even a soft octopus can explode with thorns." The horned demon mocked mercilessly. He turned to Luo Nan and made a zipping motion with his mouth. "Shut him up, or else we can multiply the number." Luo Nan stared at the image of the horned demon. Common sense finally struggled out from the depths of his restless heart and arranged into a series of normal logic. The price of labor in the ability user society was relatively stable. 1 to 2 points could be used to hire high-level professional support personnel to carry out non-combat missions. 3 to 4 points was basically the highest reward assigned for a group combat mission. 5 points and above could be considered a high reward. 10 points was a sky-high price. Usually, it was the price paid by extraordinaries or the use of high-level public resources. If it was a bit more mundane, 1 point could be exchanged for 1 million according to the market price of credit points. However, this was a publicly recognized price that was lagging behind. Practically no ability user would do such a stupid thing. Luo Nan opened the credit system due to the negative value of his points during the 2000th Miss incident. His credit limit at the time was 1,000 points. In theory, that was an overdraft of his strength and potential at the time. It was the highest evaluation. In this sense, Octopus had a basis for saying that the horned demon wouldn't be worth 1,000 points even if he sold himself. Of course, Luo Nan's credit limit was 1,800 points. He was basically at the highest level below extraordinaries. His savings reached 700 points. This was accumulated over the past 4 months through the usage fees for the SVIP model of the Psychic Wave Network, the design fees for the Blood Intent Ring Fortress Login Bracelet, and several lectures. Luo Nan was definitely at the level of a rich person in the inner world. However, if he let the Horn Demon take 3 or 2 times, he would be emptied of his assets if he were to complete the transaction. Then he would have to sell his blood. In other words, a certain amount of stimulation was needed when a person was anxious. Luo Nan had no concept of money, but he could tell if others were treating him as a fool. The corners of his mouth twitched. The same thing has a different value in everyone's heart. Therefore, a transaction is a voluntary transaction. However, if one party isn't sincere, then there's no way to talk about a voluntary transaction. The centaur immediately applauded. Look, Boss Luo is quite good at speaking. To be able to say doubtful words so beautifully. That's good. Young people shouldn't do things based on subjective feelings. Luo Nan directly retorted back, if it wasn't for my subjective feelings, why would I rush over for half an hour to negotiate with you over an old-fashioned notebook that may have already been photocopied by you several dozen times? Aside from its value as a memento, it doesn't have any other meaning. The Horned Demon revealed an exaggerated smile, but Luo Nan didn't wait for him to follow up. He stared at him and said, we are all on the mental side. We are all psychics. If we throw away our subjective impressions and intuition, what is left? These words finally warped the Horned Demon's smiling face. His long and narrow eyes widened a bit as he stared at Luo Nan. It looks like we need to revise our impressions of each other. And also our bargaining chips. Luo Nan pursed his lips and watched the performance of the Horned Demon with cold eyes. It was just as he had said to the Horned Demon. A psychic and a psychic basically relied on their subjective intuition when looking at people. Impressions were very important, and the Horned Demon's performance from the beginning until now made it very hard for Luo Nan to face him with the attitude of an equal trader. The Horned Demon really didn't walk this path. He widened his smile once more and a strange voice came out from his throat. Hua Hua, I really don't like the look in your eyes right now. The reason why I'm still able to maintain my communication with you is because my thirst for honor points is even stronger. Also, you need to maintain your respect for your seniors, kid. Otherwise, you will very likely regret your impulsive attitude. I'll pay attention. Luo Nan responded indifferently. TSK, it looks like you guys have some misunderstandings about me being low-key before. Okay, after all, I've cautiously suppressed some of the details of the goods since I haven't seen the owner before. But now is the time to change your opinions. Dang 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 dang. A new picture replaced the Horned Demon's face in the projection area along with the background music. The most eye-catching position in the picture was still the old-fashioned notebook that Luo Nan had seen before. But compared to the monotonous background of the earlier picture, this picture was really messy. But it was this messy mess that attracted all of Luo Nan's attention. This was because he saw the notebook, a large number of old-fashioned notebook pages. They were piled together in a messy manner. There were already ruined wooden shelves and debris of earth and stone on top of them. Looking at the remaining parts, it should have been a bookshelf before. It collapsed due to decay or some other external force. The notebooks placed on top of it fell down one by one. Some of them rolled and spread out. Some of them were stacked on top of each other. Some of them were submerged in the earth and stone. Some of them had already rotted under the damp environment. The handwriting was deformed. Luo Nan didn't know if he had unearthed these things from the details or if it was an uncontrollable imagination in his mind. It was just like the surging tide of emotions in his heart that were nearly out of control. All of these stimulated a part of his physiological instincts. His eyes were moist and hot, and his fingertips were faintly trembling. Yes, yes, yes. That's the look in your eyes. I like your reaction. A filial child. A student who made mistakes. A gambler who lost his capital. The image of the Horned Demon reappeared. It was like an aria with an undulating tone. It was like the sharp laughter of a devil. It reverberated back and forth in the space presented by the picture. This is my sincerity and bargaining chip. Thinking back to when I first discovered them, I was so tired that my back ached from organizing them. I felt like I had lost 10 years of my life. Boss Luo, do you understand now how sincere the price of 1,000 points was? But the problem is that a man's dignity needs to be vigorously protected. So I don't just mind the wrong position of your beautiful secretary. I also mind the attitude you had when speaking to me just now. I need mental compensation. Yes. What should I multiply it by next? Horned demon, don't go too far. Octopus hated that he couldn't reach out and drag the horned demon out from the projection area. The horned demon spread out his hands and faced Luo Nan, and Octopus stares with a warped and ostentatious smile. I said that you will regret it. This is because you are unable to refuse my bargaining chip and trump card. Then 4 times. The horned demon held his belly in laughter when he saw Octopus' face suddenly change color. Relax. Relax. For the sake of our fellow Xia City branch companions, I will take care of your actual purchasing ability. I'm talking about 4 times the minimum of 1,000 points. 4,000 points. Octopus no longer dared to speak at this time. The horned demon began to perform like a stage play. You can think that I'm opening my mouth like a lion. You can also bargain as you please. And I will adjust the price at any time according to your performance. It's possible to increase it again. But please pay attention. Right now, I need to emphasize the main point. This is because I have a request that cannot be refused. He drew a circle in the air. Only a second later did Luo Nan realize that it was the sign of a clock's hand turning a full circle. This transaction needs to be completed within 12 hours. 12 hours? That's right. I know that there are too many capable people by Boss Luo's side. And the 2 photos I showed you and the conversation I'm having with you right now have already exposed a lot of information. If I give you the time to deduce, I'm not sure if I can still protect the benefits I deserve. The horned demon put on a calm demeanor with great difficulty, but he was narcissistic in the next second. And I'm a sentimental person. If you really bring out old man Yu and let him argue with me, maybe I'll become soft-hearted and agree to lower the price. I'm also taking a risk, okay? So, 12 hours. And this is calculated from the time I came into contact with Octopus. That's right. Our negotiation time is also counted. You can negotiate with me for up to 11 hours. Whether or not you have time to pick up the goods is another question. Wait. There's more. The horned demon raised a finger before Luo Nan could respond. In order to see your sincerity, I need a down payment. A 50% down payment. It's 1,000 points as the base. Give me 500 points first. I know you can take it out. And we are all companions of the Xia City branch. It's especially convenient to transfer money. Octopus was stimulated by the word, companions, to the point of going crazy. He gritted his teeth and growled, "You're not talking about business. You're kidnapping. Is there a difference?" The horned demon curled his lips and wagged his finger. Resource monopoly, patent monopoly, market monopoly. Which model isn't kidnapping? Capital can do it, but I, the horned demon, can't do it. Oh, speaking of kidnapping, maybe I can go a bit further. For example, like this. The horned demon snapped his fingers. The ruined bookshelf that appeared in the projection area suddenly burst into flames. All the images were distorted in the fire. Just as Boss Luo just reminded me, the true value of these notes can be reflected perfectly in the photocopies. As for the commemorative value, if we can't do business with each other, what's the use of keeping them? The horned demon's long and narrow eyes reflected the light of the fire and the color of blood. How about we make a bet? If this business fails, what will I do? When the time comes, it won't be these pictures with special effects. I will bring out even more efficient results for you to enjoy. Damn, I feel like I'm a villain when I talk like this. Then let's end this quickly. Your answer, kid. Luo Nan felt his ears buzzing after listening to too many of the Horned Demon's lines. His mind was a bit dizzy. He didn't pay attention to the threats in the Horned Demon's long speech. He didn't pay attention to the self-entertainment. He just confirmed with the Horned Demon according to his own understanding, you entered my grandfather's wilderness laboratory. The Horned Demon was slightly stunned. He chuckled, the standard answer. The surprise level isn't high enough, but most things in the world are like this. You can completely. Luo Nan interrupted him, there are still people there, right? The Horned Demon blinked and then said, you want to pry information from my mouth and get the coordinates? Chapter 730. Oh, from what you're saying, you want to proceed with the next transaction? Faced with Luo Nan's inquiry, the Horned Demon first grinned. Then he displayed exaggerated emotions and sympathy. I understand your mood, Boss Luo, but I must tell you sincerely that this is truly valuable information. Moreover, it is still in the process of rapidly increasing in value. And the most crucial factor in the increase in value is you. The more famous you are, the higher your status is, and the value of this clue will increase correspondingly. So much so that you, Boss Luo, who perfectly created this trend, can't afford this price. The evil capitalistic society is just this shameless. Actually, quite a few people have already offered a price for it. I'm currently deliberating. That's right, I can tell from your eyes that your guess is correct. I will do my best to utilize the practical value of these notes. In any case, you just want a commemorative value, right? The Horned Demon quickly returned to his distorted smiley mode, and he laughed even more cheerfully. It's still the same words. Everyone needs to revise their impressions of each other. Actually, I'm a good person, but it's not easy for people to understand me. I especially need people's respect and trust. I hope you won't disappoint me, Boss Luo. Okay, Boss Luo, you must make a decision now. Decide whether or not you want to continue this delightful transaction. If you agree, then send the deposit to my account first. Let me hear a ding. Then we'll have plenty of time to decide on the subsequent price and the location of the next transaction. Oh, I still need to remind you out of good intentions. You can see that I'm in the wilderness right now, and transportation isn't very convenient. You need to take this into consideration as well. Looking at it this way, the deadline of 12 hours really isn't that generous. Sweat had already appeared on Octopus's forehead in the office. At this time, a message from the psychic wave network cut in. He subconsciously pressed his ear and turned to look at Luo Nan, but he saw that there was no reaction from Luo Nan. His back was drenched in sweat, but he couldn't hide it. He gave Luo Nan a frantic look. There was no luck involved. His little movements were captured by the Horned Demon. The Horned Demon simply didn't pay attention to this side. He just spoke to Luo Nan, Boss Luo, you're now a famous member of society. There's no need to find your parents to feed you. Oh, sorry. Maybe you've never experienced this before. At this time, Octopus forcefully interjected, I don't know what Luo Nan is thinking, but I am very clear that Centaur must have lost his mind. You want Luo Nan to transfer money to you? What method do you use? Don't forget, if the official website had more than 100 points, it would be a huge payment. That was equivalent to hundreds of millions of dollars in funds. It wasn't like it was an organization against an organization, and the system didn't calculate it in real time. Also, when it comes to the stability of credit and currency, there's also a manual audit. Not to mention 12 hours, it might even be 24 hours. How do you calculate the time? The Centaur cackled and pointed at the octopus, such a technical question is definitely not something you can think of. Is that beauty he controlling it from behind? I know what you guys are thinking. You want me to use the high authority channels of the psychic wave network, right? I'm not in Xia City right now. If I want to log in and receive the signal, I'll need to use my own strength to support the signal transmission. Then you can seize the opportunity to lock onto my position. Okay, no problem. I'm a straightforward and upright person. I'll do as you wish. Boss Luo, let's add each other as friends. Oh right, it seems like you still have a recommendation system. Then Octopus, you can be a lackey again. Octopus had already recovered his calm. He turned a deaf ear to the centaur's vile provocation, but he couldn't help feeling a bit anxious when he saw Luo Nan's current state. He felt that Luo Nan's mind was wandering. Luo Nan should be angered by the centaur. Luo Nan's mind must not collapse at a time like this. Luo Nan. The centaur and octopus's continuous greetings finally brought Luo Nan's attention back. He looked at Octopus, and Octopus gestured for him to look at the information sent on the psychic wave network. A new mission channel was established on the psychic wave network. For now, there were only Luo Nan, Octopus, and He Yueyin. Octopus had already sent many messages. The last message was, delay him for a bit more time. He will certainly defend against the psychic wave network, but he can't defend against the sun and the weather outside. We can guess his latitude and longitude and lock onto his position. Let this deal go to hell. Luo Nan was expressionless as he left a message in the mission channel, it's fake. That's fake. He Yueyin's message was practically synchronized with Luo Nan's. Octopus didn't react for a time, what? The scene presented to us by the centaur is fake. He Yueyin explained further, although the angle of the sun's altitude and the progress of the natural light shift are very realistic, if we calculate the latitude and longitude, it should be the Chang'an Lake area in the middle of the old continent in the northern hemisphere. The relevant areas are all bodies of water that have been severely polluted by radiation. It's impossible for a large area of the red earth wasteland to exist. Therefore, we can basically confirm that the centaur should be in a highly simulated virtual setting. Holy crap! Octopus's mind nearly collapsed again. Fortunately, his mind was still clear. Then let's go check the deal of renting the virtual setting. This kind of highly simulated virtual setting can't be a mobile version of the wild. Damn it, which city is he in? Yes, so he has nothing to fear. The Psychic Wave Network completed the global deployment of relay stations 2 years ago. It can satisfy basic needs such as money transfer, communication, and so on. He can appear in any city in the world. Even if his current position is temporarily exposed, it will be very difficult to track him as long as the network is quickly disconnected. There is also the transaction location he provided. If he wants to get the follow-up payment, he will have to show up, right? Speaking to this point, Octopus smiled bitterly to himself. A drone is enough to settle the matter. Everyone, have you come up with a plan in private? The centaur clapped his hands in boredom. Even if you don't have a sense of time, you should at least have a bit of public morality. Lackey Octopus, I've sent my request and my location to you. Octopus gritted his teeth and transferred the damned friend request to Luo Nan. Almost at the same time, He Yueyin reported the location of the centaur, whose city, relay station 4. F***CK. Octopus cursed once again. The centaur really chose a good place. Whose city? Luo Nan still had an impression of this city in his mind. This was the hometown of Red Fox, who taught him the urban stealth technique. In the early years, Red Fox and a group of friends had offended a certain secret order there. But due to the inaction of headquarters and the local branch, the other party wantonly retaliated. Red Fox was barely able to escape and escaped to Xia City. It was because of this that the relationship between the two branches was terrible, even though Hu City and Xia City were both part of the old continent and weren't too far from each other. There would naturally be obstacles if they wanted to borrow the resources there to conduct tracking. So when Octopus heard this result, he nearly gave up all hope. The centaur laughed even more happily. Okay, I'll start the countdown. Don't look at me like that. I'm saving time for you guys. 1/6 of the 12 hours have already passed. Do you understand how time flies? Luo Nan's facial expression was still lacking in admiration. He just pulled up a satellite map of whose city from the internet and asked Yuan, which district is relay station 4 in. In the end, the centaur didn't know about the conversation in the dedicated mission channel. He had the absolute advantage and was wantonly releasing a scent that made people unhappy. He stared at Luo Nan and laughed so hard that his entire face was shaking. You have 10 seconds to make a decision. Decide if this transaction or kidnapping has any value in continuing to exist. Let's not talk nonsense. Let's count down the time I spend talking. I'll start counting down from 5. I always have a great sense of time. 3, 2, 1. Ding dong. The centaur's movements froze. After a bit of confirmation, he waved his arms and shouted without concealment, yes. To a pleasant cooperation. Luo Nan still lacked an intuitive feeling towards the transfer of 500 million worth of assets. His eyelids didn't even twitch. He just moved his lips and watched the centaur celebrating wantonly. He spoke softly, I hope so. Yuan's reply appeared in the mission channel at this time, Jinyao District Pill Apprentice Street 452 Skyscraper Box Station. The signal covers an area of 50 square kilometers. Luo Nan's gaze shifted from this reply to the satellite map. Using it as a scale ruler, the sole cloak that covered the surface of the Earth's 510 million square kilometers shook slightly in the relevant area. It was like a sunken vortex or like a droplet of dew. The images of all living beings within a range of nearly 100 square kilometers and their corresponding auras were projected layer by layer in a warped pattern. The first wave was just a smoke-like silhouette. But soon, the aura of an ability user was naturally exposed within the smoke-like aura of a normal person. At the same time, Luo Nan's mental sensing network borrowed water molecules to condense into a thin mist. It was like a divine eye that covered the void. It received rays of light from the material world and carried out a panoramic restoration. This restoration was in no way inferior to a high degree of realism virtual setting. It was so much so that Luo Nan seemed to have completed a Riven-style jump. He arrived on the bustling streets of Huqing City. The Lake District Jinyao District Pill Apprentice Street 466 was a film and television special effects production base side by side with the tall building where the relay station was located. It was currently the peak time for people to get off work at noon. A dense stream of people and vehicles exited the base. Luo Nan was like an incorporeal specter. He moved in the opposite direction of the stream of people. He brushed past the people who were completely unaware of him and focused his cold and clear consciousness on a certain film studio within the base. Inside, the horned demons were still smeared with props of red clay. They were wantonly celebrating under the virtual daylight. The projection in Xia City's office and the real person in the film studio in Huqing were merging into one within Luo Nan's consciousness. They were determined to be the anchor points for the interference of power. Now select the node to insert from the countdown. Luo Nan had a strong desire to end this terrible transaction in advance. He began to carry out the final plan of action. Right at this moment, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. In the area where his consciousness was entrenched, someone cut in without warning and brushed past him. It was a middle-aged man. His figure was lean, his hair was sparse, and his face was full of tendons. Even though his face was expressionless, there were clear traces of gullies on his cheeks. He gave off a grave and stern feeling. Luo Nan was unable to sense any other information aside from this. There was clearly someone there, but on the mental plane, there was a heart-palpitating emptiness. Chapter 731. Since they brushed past each other, they were walking toward each other. In other words, this gentleman, who was observing the empty space on the mental plane, was walking out of the special effects production base. Was he an employee here? What a joke. Luo Nan recognized this person at first glance. Luo Yuan. He had once built a mutant lair in the center of Xia City. He had infiltrated the Shangding building to assassinate President Ouyang. At the same time, he had used the inconceivable planar crossbow to nearly kill Luo Nan. Although this series of actions ended in failure, it did not harm this person's strength. This was a terrifying extraordinary. This was the only person that Luo Nan's invincible mental senses were unable to capture and monitor. Just like in Xia City, Luo Nan's mental sense network was unable to capture this person's trajectory in advance. Luo Nan suspected that Luo Yuan's body was the same as in Xia City. It was a rapidly proliferating empty shell of a clone body. It simply did not form an imprint on the mental plane. But no matter what form or state Luo Yuan existed in, he appeared in this area at this time. It was almost certain that he had a direct and close relationship with the Horned Demon, with his grandfather's notebook, and with this kidnapping and blackmailing incident. Was he an accomplice of the Horned Demon? Yes, wasn't using the word accomplice too highly of the Horned Demon? Luo Yuan's pace was steady and fast. Since he did not discover Luo Nan's focus, he followed his own rhythm and quickly walked out of the studio building. He boarded a black flying car that had been waiting at the entrance for a long time. The flying car immediately started and soon drove out of the base. It merged into the congested traffic of Hu City. Meanwhile in Xia City, Rui Wen, who had just finished school, was as lonely as usual. She walked alone on campus, taking the opportunity to break away from everyone's line of sight. She turned into an uninhabited secluded location and sent a signal to Luo Nan that everything was ready. The anchor point of Luo Nan's consciousness had long since locked onto the dancing horned demon in the studio. The horned demon was high in his performance. He was completely unaware of the subtle changes in the surrounding environment. He could not imagine that the silent Luo Nan, who was still enduring his extortion demands in the projection, had already arrived close to him. Luo Nan was gesticulating on how to stab. Luo Nan was 99% certain that he would be able to stab through the horned demon's annoying mouth in the next second. He would be able to kill all possibilities of the horned demon calling for help. The problem was that this thought had no effect on reality. Luo Yuan's influence was substantial. Looking at it from another angle, Luo Nan's failure to discover his grandfather's notebook in this area was also a key factor. Either the centaur doesn't have any sincerity in the transaction at all, or, the transaction does exist, but the delivery has already been arranged. In other words, the centaur isn't alone. He has an unknown team around him. Luo Yuan, who had just left, was a solid hammer. Luo Nan let out a silent sigh. His consciousness floated away, and a strand of his mind fell upon the departing flying car. At this moment, the active water molecules were combining with the cold and humid air flow of the air conditioner in the car, filling the enclosed space of the car and transmitting images and sounds from the other side. The driver who happened to be driving asked, "Isn't it inappropriate to let the centaur be there alone? Why don't I ask little Zhao to come and help?" Luo Yuan sat in the back seat with a straight posture. Only his slightly lowered eyelids showed that his body was in a relatively relaxed state. 2 seconds later, he responded with a rather magnetic hoarse voice, that treat plan is a matter for the young people. Whether it succeeds or not has nothing to do with me. Since the other side dares to let the centaur take the lead, then let him add a scene there. He has been holding it in for so long that he is going crazy. The driver chuckled, he is originally a lunatic. Ah, sorry. Luo Yuan withdrew his cold eyes, and his hoarse voice maintained a slow rhythm. Volunteers and experimental subjects should be distinguished. No matter how crazy the centaur is, he is still a warrior who actively fights against the genetic barrier. Yes, sir. My mentality is not right. The driver made a slip of the tongue and violated Luo Yuan's taboo. In just these 2 short sentences, a layer of cold sweat had already soaked his forehead. Fortunately, Luo Yuan didn't delve into it. He talked half to himself, the genetic modulation of the centaur isn't successful. The so-called reference model is restored to human DNA, and there will always be strange problems. The centaur is now like dry firewood with oil. Once it burns, the controllability is too low. Maybe these models conflict with the double helix structure. the driver no longer dared to interrupt on this topic. Luo Yuan raised his head to look at the cold sweat on his forehead. Is it going to rain in Hucheng? The air is stuffy and humid. Ah, I'll adjust it. The driver was about to adjust the air conditioning function of the flying car when an invisible aura fluctuated from Luo Yuan's body. There was clearly no wind, but the car instantly became refreshed. The inside of the flying car became refreshed, but Luo Nan's consciousness was slightly sluggish. On one hand, he just received a lot of explosive information. On the other hand, the special structure of the water vapor driven by the soul cloak was instantly destroyed by the aura of Luo Yuan's radiation. Luo Nan almost thought that he had been discovered following and monitoring him. Fortunately, it turned out that it was just Luo Yuan's pursuit of a comfortable body. Even so, Luo Nan didn't dare to be like before, unscrupulously using the soul cloak to interfere with the operation. For a strong person like Luo Yuan, his perception of the external environment was exquisite. No matter how small the changes on the material plane were, it was not safe. Luo Nan carefully kept his distance. In this way, the scene and conversation in the sealed car were vague and hard to distinguish. It was difficult to extract effective information. Luo Nan could only wait. Wait for Luo Yuan to re-enter the open environment. Maybe then he wouldn't be so sensitive, right? The flying car continued to move and boarded the airport highway. It looked like they weren't going to stop at Hucheng. Instead, they were going straight out of the city. Luo Nan looked at the map and saw that there was an airport in that direction. They could also directly enter the wilderness. But no matter which one it would take over an hour by car. He definitely had to follow them. It was hard to catch traces of a great enemy. Moreover, his usual mental senses were useless. It would be too much of a pity to give them up. But as for the horned demon, was he really going to let them go? Luo Nan wasn't willing. For Octopus Bro, every second of negotiating with the horned demon was a torment. The horned demon wasn't worthy of the word negotiation. He was just somewhere between a joke and a dream talk. It was completely impossible to realize conditions. He kept instilling them into Octopus Bro, breaking through the bottom line of Octopus Bro's mental endurance. As for whether or not the negotiation would be successful, Octopus had already seen it. This damned bastard didn't care at all. Motherf asterisk cur, don't tell me this fellow just wants to scam 500 points and then run. The more Octopus talked, the more nervous he became. He didn't know if it was fortunate or unfortunate. After paying the sky-high price of points, Luo Nan, who was directly related to the transaction, maintained a stubborn silence. No matter how the horned demon provoked and teased him, Luo Nan didn't say a word. In the end, the centaur probably lost the source of pleasure that should have been the strongest source of pleasure, so he ended this meaningless negotiation in a dull manner. The final price stopped at 1,200 points. This was a fifth higher than the horned demon's so-called base price. According to his words, even my spit is worth this price. Octopus felt that he didn't play any role in this process. If Luo Nan was to say that he did, he probably made the horned demon sign a confidentiality agreement. He asked Octopus to ensure that this sky-high price of kidnapping and extortion was completely sealed off from the outside world. The 200 points above the base price was given under this name. Alright, these minor details were meaningless. Octopus finally confirmed the terms of the agreement. According to the conditions stipulated in the agreement, Luo Nan would send a special person to Hu City within 9 hours to receive the 12 notebooks that the horned demon had dug out from Luo Yuandao's wilderness laboratory. 2 of the notebooks were relatively intact, but the remaining 10 were more or less damaged. On average, 1 notebook is exactly 100 points. Thinking about it this way, don't you think it's not that expensive? The horned demon began to show off. If I convert it to credit points, then it's 100 million. I'm using this to buy your life. Do you think that extraordinaries won't be interested? Oh my, I'm so scared. How about this? As a bonus for the deal and to mend our relationship, I will provide you with a copy of the excavation site. We already have our notebooks. What's the use of having a copy? Octopus began to curse. If he didn't do this, he wouldn't be able to vent the resentment in his heart. The horned demon laughed heartily. Octopus, your brain capacity has probably shrunk from taking drugs. I'm not a professional archaeologist. Who would have the time and energy to preserve these tattered notebooks? Many days have passed in between, so quite a few notebooks have been damaged a second time. The things preserved by the photocopies from back then are a bit more complete. What do you guys think? Octopus didn't know what Luo Nan's mood would be when he heard these words. In any case, he kicked the office desk next to him after he cut off the communication. Horned demon, this madman. He's crazy. Luo Nan was startled awake. He subconsciously advised, Bro Octopus, don't be angry. If I'm not angry, then I'm a dead man. 1,200 points. Deducting your savings, there should be a difference of nearly 600 points, right? According to your current credit limit, this sum of money is equal to a third of your life savings being sold to the society. Do you understand? Luo Nan could only laugh. It doesn't matter if it's my value or my grandfather's notebooks. Neither of them can be measured by these points. Octopus was quite interested in Luo Nan's self-produced chicken soup. He Yueyin had confirmed the conclusion of the negotiations at this time. She pushed open the door and entered. She looked straight at Luo Nan. As a senior member of the Xia City branch, the attitude and stance of the horned demons are worth discussing. I have already notified President Ouyang, Her Majesty Empress Wu, and Old Yu. We will first have a small meeting to analyze and make the corresponding arrangements. If Mr. Luo has any questions or requests, you can raise them at the meeting. Everyone can solve them together. Chapter 732. Octopus heard He Yuein's arrangement. He immediately clenched his fist and smashed it into his palm. He gnashed his teeth. That's how it should be. Huh? Luo Nan's unexpected reaction made Octopus unable to react for a time. Perhaps this young man was too sullen. Did he want to run to a corner and lick his wounds? Well, speaking of which, no matter how vile the situation was, this was the first time Octopus saw Luo Nan this passive, without the ability to fight back. Sure enough, Luo Nan's emotional weakness was grasped. He was far more fragile than usual. Nanster, you need to be steady at this time. Didn't they say that winning first isn't winning? In the end, it all depends on who laughs in the end. Octopus felt that there was still room for redemption. He Yuein's meaning was that the three heavyweights of Xia City should hold a meeting to discuss how to deal with the consequences of Horned Demon's actions. In a certain sense, this was tantamount to endorsing and supporting Luo Nan. With Luo Nan's current status, this was obviously worth it. From another perspective, it was because Horned Demon, a genius who grew up in Xia City and was personally taught by President Ouyang and Old Yu, had displayed a terrible stance. It was no different from betrayal. Speaking of which, he had fled into the wilderness in a sorry state because of his bet with Her Majesty Empress Wu. Octopus was sighing when he heard Luo Nan say, Horned Demon's attitude is very suspicious. I need to ponder it a bit. But I'm not too familiar with this person. I won't be able to raise any problems even if I go. In any case, Brother Octopus was involved from start to finish. Some things can be relayed by him. Hey! There's one more thing. It's more important to me. Luo Nan's gaze turned to He Yueyin. Horned Demon said that I can't afford the transaction. He Yueyin understood. Mr. Luo Yuendao's Wilderness Laboratory. Yes. I heard my aunt say that when grandfather was in the wilderness, he migrated with the tribe of vagrants. There were many laboratories of various sizes, but most of them were abandoned. The ones that survived were all seized by the Scientific Research Ethics Committee and resold to various wilderness research institutes. If there really is a laboratory that survived and buried notes or other clues in the ruins, I really want to know. Luo Nan rambled on, but he finally understood what he meant. He Yuan nodded, I will send people to investigate. It won't be hard to investigate large sums of money and credit transactions related to Horn Demon. There will be results soon. Luo Nan gave a slight nod in thanks, then he slowly walked out the door. Octopus still wanted to persuade her, but He Yuan stopped him with a look. She only asked, do you need me to arrange a car for you? No, I'm fine alone. Luo Nan walked through the ground floor area of the Shangding building. Most of the people he saw were members of the branch. Luo Nan might not remember many of them, but the vast majority of the people here had attended Luo Nan's classes. It was rare to see Luo Nan appear at the branch headquarters on normal days. They were surprised, and they greeted him warmly. For a moment, Teacher Luo, Professor Luo, Boss Luo, and all sorts of other titles rang out. From beginning to end, Luo Nan didn't say a word. His gaze didn't stray. He walked over quietly, almost indifferently. He had an appearance of keeping strangers away from him. It was hard for the ability users, who were in close contact with him for the first time, to not be able to avoid cursing in their hearts. Those who were a bit more familiar with him found it a bit strange. Who provoked Boss Luo this time? Luo Nan maintained this state as he boarded the elevator. He chose the closest flying car landing platform. The elevator door closed, and the smooth steel plate reflected his figure, which was as straight as a statue. Coincidentally, there was no one else in the elevator other than him. Luo Nan stared fixedly at his reflection in the mirror. His face was stiff and cold, displaying a terrible mood. This was not fake. Anyone who encountered this sort of thing would be unable to suppress the rage in their hearts. However, the pupil of the mirror that connected with Luo Nan's gaze was calm and restrained to the point that Luo Nan himself felt astonished. The eyes were the windows to the soul. The soul hidden behind this window seemed to have been waiting for this scene to happen. He had been waiting for it for a long time. Luo Nan extended his hand and his fingertips streaked across the steel plate. He subconsciously wanted to restore the scene in his heart, but he soon restrained himself. He just nodded at his reflection in the mirror, your reaction is in accordance with normal logic. This included the words he had said to Octopus and He Yuan, as well as the request he had made. This is the result that the person who planned the so-called treat plan wishes to see. But the ultimate goal of deliberately provoking you like this is certainly not just to make you unhappy. He wishes to use this sort of negative emotion to drive you to do certain things. He wishes to control your actions in a disguised way. What does he want you to do? Luo Nan conversed with his own reflection because he was the only one who understood the underlying logic hidden behind all appearances. What would the angered Luo Nan do under normal circumstances? Would he chase and kill the Horn Demon all over the world because of the notebook? No. It's impossible for the other side to know about the Soul Cloak and the global mental sensor network. Under the other side's logic, you will be angry and irritable when faced with such a situation, but you will be powerless. Oh. Maybe the person who planned this doesn't want you to lose your rationality. Because the actions of a person who has lost his rationality are hard to grasp. He can't be called a guest, but an enemy. The other side will most likely control the heat. Because of this, the Horn Demon's opening of the transaction was admittedly a crazy act to vent his malicious emotions. It was clear that he wanted to blackmail people. However, the notebook that was the transaction item was not in his hands at all. It was impossible for him to do something even crazier even if he wanted to. The roles of the negotiator and the delivery person were separated. This could be considered a type of risk control. Therefore, there shouldn't be any problems with his grandfather's notebook. The elevator went up to the middle section of the building. The elevator door opened and someone came in. Luo Nan saw a youth wearing a school uniform standing straight in the middle of the elevator. Luo Nan stared straight ahead and his lips were slightly moving. It was as if he was conversing with an incorporeal spirit. The scene was awkward for a time. This was only for the latecomers. Luo Nan had completely entered a state. He felt his mind grow clearer and clearer. His logic became clearer and clearer. He was like a student who had just stepped into an exam room and suddenly discovered that all the exam questions had been done before. Every single one of them seemed familiar. He walked onto the landing platform and boarded a flying bug car. He sat in the last row and casually chose a destination. He didn't stop thinking this entire time, they're fishing. Grandfather's notebook is just bait, not a hook. If there really is a hook, it should be the information that no one has the money to buy. I will bite the bait. It doesn't matter if I know that this is a trap or not. They will let me go to a place to be a guest. They will use a relatively natural method. Perhaps they want to cooperate with me. Therefore, the horn demon will be pushed out to be a target. They can use normal transactions as a cover. They can start from zero and establish a relationship. Luo Nan switched back and forth between addressing you me. His mind wasn't chaotic at all. Right now he already had a clear train of thought in his mind to solve the problem. He had a basic framework or paradigm. He looked at the problem in front of him and watched his opponent's move. He was able to predict the corresponding point. All he needed to do was wait for reality to verify it. Luo Nan didn't have to wait too long. Yuan sent a message on the psychic wave network when the flying bug car took off and landed for the third time between the high-rise buildings. According to the agreement, the first 2 sets of notebook for verification have been received. That fast? Old Yu has an old friend in the Hu City branch. He's trustworthy. He's not far away, so I asked him to take care of it. This is a live video. And so Luo Nan saw 2 notebooks with relatively obvious defects. The contact that old Yu requested was wearing gloves. He carefully flipped through the pages that were already somewhat sticky. Luo Nan recognized with a glance that the clear and blurry handwriting on each page was the handwriting of his grandfather, Luo Yuandao. That's right. It's this. Luo Nan didn't just use video verification. His mental sensing network also followed the relevant location information and quickly locked onto the location. He did even more. In fact, the sensing network of Hu City was simultaneously displaying information from multiple levels and multiple angles. Aside from the 2 notebooks that were already exposed on the surface, the horn demon who was gorging himself in a restaurant near the special effects production base and Luo Yuan who was about to enter the airport all left clear and continuous traces of their actions on the sensing network. Luo Nan even used a near-omniscient view mode and a bit of luck to discover the delivery person, who was nervously setting up 20 kilometers away from the first delivery location. Of course, he also carried other notebooks with him. Basically, the protective measures were quite complete. His conjecture matched with reality. If Luo Nan wanted to, he could snatch the remaining notebooks right now and make this kidnapping and blackmail deal go to hell. But Luo Nan didn't make any further moves, just like when he let the horn demon go. But this time there was no fear or helplessness in his heart. What replaced it was a peculiar feeling of anticipation. He needed further verification, but he wouldn't be satisfied with just verification. This game of chess had just begun. Of course, it wouldn't do to simply watch people make their moves. But to directly flip the chessboard right now was truly a reckless waste of God's gifts. Yes, this description was correct. Luo Nan had heard of an even more straightforward description. It came from a fellow psychic, Gao Meng, Gao Tianshi. It seemed to be a bit more appropriate, playing with the spirit of divination, being able to lift up the skirt of the goddess of fate and see the beautiful outline of the future. It's not an easy thing to do. Every time this happens, I don't even have time to enjoy her flirting. How can I destroy it so easily? There's no need to talk about good things. Even if it's a bad thing, I'll grind it to the very end. Then I'll play with a heart-pounding reversal. It'll feel good enough to the bone. Then I won't waste this trip. Back then, Luo Nan just laughed with his head down. He didn't express his opinion. But honestly speaking, he was in a leisurely and fascinated state at the time. He silently gave it a few thumbs up. Chapter 733. It was already nighttime in Xia City. The lights of the tall buildings and all sorts of transportation vehicles filled the air, forming a barrier of light that blotted out the starry sky. It died, this seaside city that never slept. Octopus yawned and drove away from Shangding Building. The second he got into the car, he set the car to autopilot mode. His whole body was almost curled up in the driver's seat, his upper and lower eyelids fighting back and forth. After an afternoon of meetings, he was physically and mentally exhausted. The most tragic thing was that he still had to work the night shift tonight. I heard that Luo Nan would be able to quit school soon. I'm so envious, I'm so busy that I'm dizzy. Octopus suddenly shuddered. Although He Yueyin would most likely inform Luo Nan of the conference spirit in time, this matter had arisen because of him. His good intentions had caused a disaster. Not only did he cause Luo Nan to lose a lot of money, his mood was also terrible. He couldn't just let it go. At the very least, his attitude had to be clear. He slapped his own face as he thought to this point. He forcefully pulled himself together and sent a communication request to Luo Nan. Nanster, where are you? Are you alright? Octopus deliberately gave up on the half-joking title of Boss Luo. During the afternoon meeting, he directly faced the branch's big three. He also listened to He Yueyin's intelligence analysis. He was able to carefully experience Luo Nan's current level of contact and the predicament and pressure he faced. He felt that the extremely domineering titles like boss and boss, as well as the subconscious expectations, were too cruel for a child who had yet to reach adulthood. Why don't I just take a day off today? I'll go and apologize to him and try my best to comfort this young man's broken heart. Brother Octopus, the meeting is over. Luo Nan's voice was tranquil. It was impossible to hear any fluctuations in his emotions. It was just a bit light, as if he was speaking in a relatively quiet place. NN, are you home? If it's convenient, let's go out for a drink or two, non-alcoholic drinks, just to chat. I'm on your side. Huh? Octopus subconsciously turned his head. Traffic was everywhere. Where was Luo Nan's shadow? 2 seconds later, he came to his senses. You're in the sanatorium. Yes, I'm here to see Grandpa and Dojo Master. I see. Octopus chuckled, but in his heart, he was groaning, oh no, oh no. At this time, going to the sanatorium to see Grandpa was obviously affected by the incident and hadn't jumped out of the pit. It wasn't easy to jump in the first place. That damned 1,200 points. Not only did it wipe clean all of the wealth Luo Nan had accumulated over this period of time, it also made him bear a heavy debt of over 400 points. The branch did have some support measures, but 400 points was still a large number. They still had to go through the credit channels of the headquarters, and the transfer of accounts was a very complicated process. It would definitely affect them for a period of time. This was just a small matter. The most disgusting thing was the coordinates of the laboratory in the wilderness. According to the preliminary results of He Yueyin's investigation, that bastard centaur really played around with this matter. Octopus thought a bit too much for a time. Luo Nan was a bit baffled. Bro Octopus. Wait for me. I'll go back now. Around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, the peak hour had passed. Octopus drove the flying car to the maximum speed limit, which was about 40 minutes later. The sanatorium was already in sight. But along the way, he kept receiving calls. Just as he was about to enter the main door, Zhang Yingying called again. I heard that you pushed Boss Luo into a pit again. What do you mean, again? You're the again, okay. Let me think. Bamboo pole, crag burst, paper cut, Chinikuan. You're already in the 5th wave. Everyone's in the group. If there's anything, just ask them. Zhang Yingying snorted, it's better to do less things that directly annoy Boss Luo. He's certainly unhappy right now, and I'm stuck with negative energy. We won't infect each other. It's fine to just ask you, the main culprit. She had to touch a sore spot. Unfortunately, Octopus didn't say anything. He could only laugh dryly and forcefully open up a second battlefield. Oh my, you're really considerate. It's just that you're not too quick. Speaking of which, you've been yelling half a year ago. How come you haven't made any substantial progress? Get lost. I'm being serious. Everyone was old friends, so Octopus wanted to find a topic to relieve his stress. He found a place to park his car while chatting with Zhang Yingying. Nanster isn't a straight man of steel. He's a science monk. His eyes light up when he sees beautiful girls when he goes out to play. Normally, you, Cat Eyes, Secretary he, and that beautiful senior of his often hang around him. I even thought that he was enlightened a long time ago. Otherwise, would I have lost my mind after that appraisal the day before yesterday? You're bored. Zhang Yingying's tone was extremely annoyed. She had lost her usual sharp tongue. I'm worried for you guys. You're a bit better off. You have Her Majesty Empress Wu's protection. You normally do things quite openly. You're just tangled up with the progress of your supernatural powers. But look at Luo Nan. Octopus suddenly choked when he spoke up to this point. The layers of information and corresponding feelings that had poured into him all afternoon suddenly surged up and down. They were blocked in his throat, causing his voice to sink. Look at Luo Nan. His age, his ability, and his net worth. Let's not talk about the inner world. Even in normal society, who doesn't pick up a girlfriend, play games, go to a disco, take some drugs, drive a car, and waste their lives for a bit? They're afraid that they won't be able to spend enough. But he's good. Every step he takes is a pit. Every step he takes is a fucking pit. He's so young, yet he has a debt of 400 million in the blink of an eye. And this is the easiest to jump out of. Let's not talk about others. Just me alone would have a mental breakdown if I encountered something like this. He's only 16 years old this year. Where would he go to vent his pressure? Over and over again, people really will go crazy. Zhang Yingying was silent for a few seconds. When she spoke again, her voice was a bit erratic. There's a personal document. Have you seen it yet? Ah. You're talking about the one that was all over the place some time ago. Leighton did. Octopus was considered an insider in the industry. Of course he had seen the analysis report of Luo Nan's personality from a certain powers think tank. At the time, Octopus just felt that the report was the same as other similar reports rooted in psychoanalysis, archetypes, personality masks, and other theories. He could always find some corresponding points or sides. But when put together, it was specious. It could be used as a reference, but it couldn't be completely trusted. He persisted in this point of view until now. But his current state of mind couldn't be compared to back then. His mind spun a bit more, and his heart felt inexplicably apprehensive. He coughed. Don't create a tense atmosphere. You clearly know that your entire body is filled with negative energy right now. Don't blindly infect it. Nanster is currently in the sanatorium. I just returned as well. I'll go take a look at his situation first. If there are any problems, I'll communicate with you guys in time. Octopus hung up after saying a few more words. He had already arrived at the isolation sanatorium area where Luo Yuandao was. This place was cold and quiet at night. There was practically no one to be seen. But when Octopus turned to the corridor outside of Luo Yuandao's ward, he saw a silhouette outside the door from far away. The silhouette was facing the glossy wall, and the silhouette was stretching out his hand to draw something in the air. Octopus was stunned. Then he deliberately adopted a cheerful attitude. He called out from far away, "Hey, Nanster. You're facing the wall here." "Yeah. My evil god was driven out by my grandfather. Jim Master played a great role in it. He's currently receiving a reward." Luo Nan laughed in response. His tone sounded very relaxed. "Really? Octopus walked up to the front of the ward and looked through the observation window on the door. Sure enough, there were two patients, both of whom were emaciated to the point of being out of shape. They sat facing each other. The older man was talking with spittle flying everywhere, and the younger middle-aged man was listening attentively. The scene was quite harmonious. Gym Master Shio was actually able to go together with the old man. It's truly an anomaly. The old man's body and mood have taken a great turn for the better recently. Octopus intentionally or unintentionally brought up all good news. Luo Nan was indeed smiling. He maintained this smile for a long time, yeah. It's all thanks to Gym Master. Oh right, bro Octopus. Do you have the latest news? I'm talking about the coordinates of the laboratory. Sister Yuein made a phone call just now. She didn't explain the matter too clearly. Is there trouble again? Octopus originally wanted to completely block out these vexing matters, but Luo Nan's sensitivity and incisiveness made it a bit difficult for him to resist. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "There's no definite news yet. There's just a clue." Secretary, he probably believes that there's no conclusive evidence, so. What clue? Luo Nan went straight to the point. It's the Horn Demon. He's been in contact with a few authoritative auction houses of the inner world recently. Apparently, the business he discussed is quite large. There's no concrete evidence for the specific situation or the exact next buyer. Auction. Auction. Luo Nan muttered to himself, repeating this word many times. His brows furrowed. He seemed to be pondering and distressed. Oh no, there's no point in thinking about this right now. Octopus didn't want Luo Nan to waste his brain power on the grapevine. Just as he was advising Luo Nan, his ear vibrated. He Yuein was calling from the psychic wave network. Octopus was a bit startled. He subconsciously walked a distance away before picking up. Before he could speak, He Yuein blasted him with a question, "Have you already arrived at the sanatorium?" "Yeah. I'm chatting with Nanster right now." Octopus instinctively felt that there was something wrong with He Yuein's attitude. What's his current state? What state? He's average. He's alright. What's wrong? Octopus wasn't too sure, and He Yuein's question made his heart flustered. He Yuein didn't say anything more. She immediately sent him a short video. It was clearly an image taken from the elevator's surveillance cameras. Octopus only needed to sweep a glance before he couldn't tear his eyes away. Within the enclosed elevator car, a youth wearing a school uniform was raising his head and pointing forward. His lips were moving as he said something in all seriousness. He was either serious or smiling. It was clear that he was communicating with someone. But in reality, there was nothing else in the direction the youth was pointing at besides the closed elevator door. This youth was Luo Nan. Chapter 734. Octopus walked further and further away during the conversation with He Yuein. He had already arrived at the fire door in the middle of the corridor, covering half of his body. In this way, Luo Nan was more or less alone in the corridor of the inpatient department. It looked like the young man didn't care about the contents of Octopus's conversation. For him, the smooth wall in front of him seemed to be a unique pleasure. Octopus saw Luo Nan pointing at the wall in circles. It was as if there was a complicated drawing that needed him to identify and correct it. Yes, that was it. Luo Nan's fingertips weren't random. They were pointing and drawing in a specific area, seeming to be methodical. A smile appeared on his face as the pointing process progressed. It became more and more obvious, continuing to spread. It gave people the feeling that it was a carefree and refreshing feeling that came from the heart. It made people who saw it unable to refrain from laughing. But just by thinking about the corresponding reality, Octopus felt a chill seeping out from the deepest part of his bones bit by bit. It then turned into a sad and sour chilly wind, blowing at his internal organs and causing them to twist into a ball. F***ck me. Octopus slapped himself in the face. Yuan could obviously feel such an unforeseen event. Her voice became extremely serious. You mentioned the coordinates? I told Horned Demon to contact the auction house. F***ck F***ck. For a time, Octopus didn't know what to do other than spitting out profanities at himself. What's his current state? Octopus gaped. He discovered that he couldn't describe it and he didn't want to. He could only open the Hexier's shared perspective function and let Yuan see for herself. Soon the other side was silent. A long time passed before she said, "You're a doctor. Do you think you can perform a mental test on Mr. Luo without him noticing?" This. Octopus was speechless. Yuan couldn't find a better method in a short amount of time. She could only say, "I'll go consult Mr. Bai and notify President Ouyang and the others. You stay there and observe." The communication ended. Octopus stared blankly for a while before suddenly punching himself heavily in the chest. He was so vexed that he lost his sense of the changes in the outside world. He woke up with a start when someone called out to him. "Dr. Zhang." "Huh?" Octopus turned his head in shock and saw a beautiful woman who was half a head taller than him. A refreshing denim jacket paired with a pair of trousers made of the same material was very handsome and neutral. It was enough to entertain most men and a considerable number of women. But right now, Octopus wasn't in the mood to appreciate this. He was surprised and a little flustered. This was because this tall beauty was none other than Luo Nan's older cousin, the female rock singer Mo Ya. "It's okay, it's okay. The corridor is too stuffy." Octopus really wanted to slap himself in the face again. "She didn't have a problem with you, so you were just poking at my sore spot." Out of politeness, Mo Ya did not pursue the matter further. In the past few months, Dr. Zhang Yuliang had been in contact with the family quite a few times and had given her grandfather a lot of extra care. After a while, they had become very familiar with each other. If he was in a bad mood, he might have been dumped by his girlfriend. Why use concern to stab him in the back? And in comparison, Mo Ya was a bit more concerned about her cousin. Luo Nan is here too. What's he doing? Waving at the air. Idea, let's start thinking about the painting. When he said this, Octopus almost couldn't control his emotions. His eyes and nose were dry, and he just wanted to find a secluded place to cry. Mo Ya gave him a couple of glances. Her eyes seemed to say, "Are you kidding me?" At this time, she finally felt that the atmosphere was a bit off. Her brows furrowed slightly and her gaze became much sharper. Octopus was an experienced ability user. When he saw that the situation was far from good, he used the powerful control of an ability user to carry out strict control over his expression and body. He revealed a professional smile towards Mo Ya. "It's so late. Miss Mo Ya still came?" "Yes. I'm going on a business trip tomorrow. It might be quite long, so I came to take a look. It's all thanks to Dr. Zhang for helping us pass the flexible visitation application." "You're too kind. It's what I should do." "When did Luo Nan come over?" "Around noon." I'm not too sure. I just got here." After a few awkward words, Mo Ya didn't see any more clues. Her expression didn't change either. She gave a slight bow and walked over to Luo Nan on the other side of the corridor. Was this luck good? Octopus looked at Mo Ya's back and a bit of expectation floated in his heart. He extended his hand to take off the glasses on the bridge of his nose and pinched the space between his eyebrows. He just hoped that his family's intervention would allow Luo Nan to jump out of his terrible state in time. On the other side of the corridor, Luo Nan wasn't clear about Octopus's mental activity. For reasons of secrecy, Luo Nan didn't allow his new psychic drawing work to appear outside. He only allowed it to be mapped on his retina for reference. The nature of the psychic drawing determined the richness and complexity of the imagery and information. Even though he had personally created it, he was always able to discover more details when he looked at it again. For example, on the silhouette of the giant wolf formed by Wu Jun's portrait and the perspective technique, there was a vague silhouette that appeared like fine gauze. It used to look like mist at night, but now it was clearly a fluttering cloak that shrouded every corner of the work. Was it the soul cape that I controlled? Or was it the sacred cloak of the Xia Luo order that led to this chain of events? Or perhaps there was a direct connection with his grandfather's crazy and persistent ravings? Luo Nan knew that there was an unreachable distance between him and the standard, successful people of society when it came to intelligence and calculation. But then again, the schemes of these successful people relied on nothing more than their enormous and complex network of power and influence. They also relied on comprehensive intelligence and precise and in-depth analysis on this foundation. Luo Nan could only concede defeat on a conventional level when it came to these resources and abilities. But if he opened up a different path in the field he was good at, it wouldn't seem to be a bad thing. At the very least, the person who designed this plan could never have imagined that Luo Nan would use a completely unscientific method to grasp the corresponding omens and extremely crucial links the night before their plan was truly launched. The cape, Wu Jun, the horned demon, the coordinates of his grandfather's laboratory, the auction, and the information regarding maritime activities that Cat Eyes had obtained from the Wild Inn. It would require a lot of far-fetched imagination to link these elements together. But right now Luo Nan didn't need to imagine anything. Last night, he had already used an even more brilliant and mysterious method to perform an overall pre-reading. Right now he just needed to wait for time and the changes in the situation to catch up to the overly advanced pace of his psychic senses. Looking at the current stage, the opponent's every move was indeed on the predicted point. This sort of coincidence really made Luo Nan, a person with obsessive-compulsive disorder, feel completely satisfied. The sound of footsteps approached and Mo Ya's slightly raspy voice rang in his ear. "Congratulations. You've completely let go of yourself. I'm really sorry for missing the family meeting and not being the first to congratulate you." Luo Nan turned around and pursed his lips. "Even if you don't display the demeanor of an older sister, as the eldest daughter of the Mo family, is it really good for you to not share the worries of your parents? If you were there last night and spoke like this, I would have become a scapegoat. Do you think that would be better?" Mo Ya beamed as she reached out her hand and pinched Luo Nan's cheek. She had rarely done this sort of action in recent years. Luo Nan slapped her hand away in disgust. "You're in a good mood, huh?" "Same here. I saw you facing the wall just now and I really thought you were depressed. Luckily, I immediately rushed back to express my support when I heard the news that you were going to take a leave of absence from school. That's because I became a blocking target first." Having said this, Luo Nan finally expressed his doubts. "What are you doing here so late at night? Your band is on the verge of collapsing and your schedule is still this tight. Get lost." Mo Ya gave a light grumble and smiled in the blink of an eye. "I'm going on a business trip out of town tomorrow. I might be gone for a month or even longer. I'm coming over tonight to take a look." "Business trip?" "Aha. Our band is going to have a small fan club in Band City in 10 days. "Band City?" Luo Nan's gaze instantly focused. Mo Ya didn't notice anything else. Luo Nan's astonishment was very normal. After all, this announcement was a bit out of the norm. You know that the music market is much more mature in the East Asian cultural circle. The rock and roll environment is much better. You can say that we're expanding into the overseas market. Really? Luo Nan expressed his doubts. Nowadays, the 88 large metropolitan areas were all relatively closed off. Aside from those true world-class stars, the cultural industry was basically in a state of seclusion. A small star like Mo Ya, who had just made her debut, might not even be able to make a name for herself in Xia City, let alone Ban City, which was across the sea. It would be an extravagant hope for their debut album to break 100 sales figures there. Also, there were some other problems with her Mountain Creek band due to Shuei's departure. It was a complete mess right now. Would the management company approve of this kind of activity? Mo Ya shrugged. "In any case, this is what the company said. And we have indeed found a partner over there. As long as we provide food, accommodation, and a return trip, we can do whatever they say. There are rumors that the company wants us to debut over there. Of course, if our families strongly oppose it, then it's a different matter. What use is family opposition? Huh? Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped. He suddenly understood. Mo Ye was giving him a report. After all, everyone in the family knew that Luo Nan had already entered a complicated circle. The atmosphere was still pervaded with tension a while ago. He was being watched both openly and secretly, both inside and out. Mo Ye appeared to be rebellious and casual, but she actually inherited her parents' strong points at the core. She thought things through thoroughly, and she was very good at considering problems from the standpoint of others. She bumped into Luo Nan tonight by accident, but she had to find the time to inform him of this matter no matter what. She also didn't want to become Luo Nan's burden. Luo Nan gazed at Mo Ye. He had a general grasp of his cousin's mentality. Honestly speaking, he cared a lot about the words, Ban City, under the current circumstances. Perhaps this was a coincidence, but how many coincidences had he encountered in the past few days? He muttered to himself in silence. He went over Mo Ye's introduction of the situation in his mind once more, and suddenly discovered a certain incongruity. Hold on. The fan meeting is in 10 days. What are you doing there now? Chapter 735. Luo Nan didn't reply to Mo Ye in time. He needed to deliberate properly. Mo Ye didn't care, at least on the surface. She first went to the ward to see her grandfather and took over from Xiao Xinyu. After receiving the reward, Xiao Xinyu slowly walked out of the room. Luo Nan was truly grateful to this teacher. He temporarily set aside the matter of Mo Ye and went to greet him. Gym Master, I've really troubled you. I don't think it's troublesome. Xiao Xinyu's thin face was devoid of expression, but his tone was relaxed. Chatting with Mr. Yuan Dao is much better than being home alone. Luo Nan forced a smile. Only you. That's not entirely true. I can't say that Mr. Yuan Dao's mental state is very good, but as long as you grasp the core of his consistency, you will find many interesting things. There were a lot of things I had been thinking about, but I couldn't verify them. Even Mr. Yuan Dao didn't give a clear answer. It's good to be able to refer to it from a different angle. Xiao Xinyu's eyes moved slightly within his sunken eye sockets. He fixed his gaze on Luo Nan's face. You two are very similar in this aspect. Luo Nan took it as a compliment for the time being. Thank you, Gym Master. Octopus, who had caught up from behind, wailed in his heart. Don't be like him anymore, or I'll really have to hit my head against the wall to atone for my sins. Octopus was afraid that Xiao Xinyu would encourage Luo Nan to run wildly down the wrong path, so he braced himself and interjected, Gym Master Xiao came over this morning to accompany Mr. Luo. You have just recovered from a major illness. You can't be too exhausted. Luo Nan came to a realization. That's right. The Gym Master needs to recuperate. I'll head back right away. It's just a few steps anyways. Xiao Xinyu readily accepted Xiao Xinyu's advice. Luo Nan and Octopus followed by his side, preparing to send him to the elevator. As they walked, Xiao Xinyu was still talking about Luo Yuan Dao. Perhaps it was because he had interacted too much today, but he made a rare judgment. Unfortunately, you and Mr. Yuan Dao seem to have a conflict of logic. Mr. Yuan Dao is very sensitive and resistant to this, and refuses to communicate with you. Otherwise, you should be the one who understands him the most. Luo Nan believed it. I also have this feeling. Let's observe more and see if we can find a good entry point. Yes, I'll try drawing a portrait for Grandpa later. Portrait? Is that what you psychics call it? Yeah, pretty much. Octopus thought to himself, I've never heard of it. Xiao Xinyu was truly in a good mood. He spoke a lot more. As long as there is a possibility of affecting reality, we can try. In this aspect, you spiritual people have an advantage over physical people. You can imagine it, and we will verify it. Your assumptions can be overturned at any time, but the price we have to pay to verify them is much more tragic. So, I hope you can make more accurate judgments and designs. I'll be counting on you to help Shui Lei in the future. Luo Nan instinctively felt that the life experiences of the gym master should be hidden behind these words, not to mention that it involved Shui Lei. Luo Nan obviously wouldn't be slow. He responded very seriously, "Don't worry, master." Xiao Xinyu nodded slightly and boarded the elevator. The closed metal door separated them from each other's line of sight, but Luo Nan suddenly thought that he could take a portrait of the gym master. He had always been curious as to how the dojo master ended up in such a state of being plagued by all kinds of illnesses with his martial arts cultivation. It was not until the night of New Year's Eve that they found out that it was a genetic problem. When the hospital basically ruled out congenital heredity, strong radiation, and other common factors, the situation became even more confusing. There were some things that were hard to ask, but it was fine to rely on his own observations. It was hard to say whether or not the psychic diagram could reach this step. But this method gave him a clear train of thought. It gave him the ability to grasp key elements. At the same time, it allowed him to examine his own chaotic consciousness. It would be better if he used it more often in the future. From his experiences in learning configuration, he could see that any ability required a large amount of concentration and continuous practice. He also needed precise reflection and feedback. He had the virtual brain system to support him in terms of configuration, so his progress was godly. The psychic diagram was also fine. He would look at the feedback in reality. If it was accurate, then it was accurate. If it wasn't, then it wasn't. If the facts were verified, then the follow-up steps of the treat to dinner plan would probably take several days. But if he just used the daily trifling matters around him to practice, he should be able to quickly receive feedback. Then he could layer upon layer, and the results would certainly be decent. Oh, Mr. Bai and the others had talked about some common practice techniques in the past, but there were some deviations from Luo Nan's reality. He needed to ponder over a practice plan that was more suitable for him. Though Luo Nan was blocked by the metal door of the elevator, it did not hinder his train of thought from flying and turning. To the side, Octopus's gaze moved back and forth between Luo Nan's face and the blurry mirror image on the elevator door. He subconsciously held his breath. Luo Nan finally felt Octopus's excessive attention. He turned to look at him. "What's wrong?" Ah. Octopus went, for quite a while, but he was unable to find a better reason in the end. He could only probe the key issue. "Nanster, there's a lot going on today. You should rest early and let your mind empty." Luo Nan laughed. "Oh, Brother Octopus, I understand what you mean. Actually, money is just an external object. I'm quite open-minded about it. At worst, I'll just hold a few lectures. Actually, my mind is very clear right now. Yeah, it should be said that it's unprecedentedly clear. There's certainly a way to solve the trouble in front of me." Octopus opened his mouth, but he was unable to speak in the end. "Fine, whatever you say will be the truth." If he were to be provoked again, he didn't know how he would end up. Speaking of which, didn't he Yuan go consult Mr. Bai? A professional should hurry up and come. At this time, Octopus had completely forgotten that he was also a professional. His heart was filled with a feeling of powerlessness when facing Luo Nan. Luo Nan still carried a childish air in front of him, but he strove to think like an adult. Or perhaps it should be said that Octopus believed that he was an adult. He hoped to come up with a solution. But how could things be so easy in this world? The horned demons who had concocted all of this, as well as the powerful enemies who had been pressuring Luo Nan on various levels and angles, would not let Luo Nan go. Luo Nan might not be unaware of this, but he might have to forget a few problems and pressures. He would search for a panacea to heal his heart on a more free and fantastical plane. Seriously, Octopus turned his head and took 2 deep breaths. He knew that he couldn't let Luo Nan continue living in his fantasies. He knew that Luo Nan was wandering on the edge of a split personality, so he forcefully brought up another topic. I just heard you and Moya talking about Bancheng, vacation, and whatnot. Are you planning on going out for a vacation? Luo Nan certainly didn't have such thoughts. But if there really was a way to relax, perhaps it wouldn't be bad to accompany his family on a trip? Oh, about that. The smile on Luo Nan's face faded a bit. At this time, in this situation, the coincidence that was not under his control was undoubtedly a type of disgusting element. He needed to properly think about it. He needed to investigate. It just so happened that he had rediscovered an investigative method that was most suitable for him. The portrait of his grandfather and Gym Master Xiao involved an in-depth exploration of the mental and material planes. It might be a bit too high-end right now, but the matter of Moya should be relatively simple. Moreover, it could be used as a supplement to the psychic drawing from before. Luo Nan's fingers twitched. He nearly wanted to draw a psychic drawing right now, but he knew that now wasn't the right time. He suppressed this impulse. Well, considering the complexity of the current situation, borrowing the resources of the society was a good choice. Right now, He Yuan wasn't by his side, so Luo Nan consulted Octopus. Bro Octopus, I feel that Moya's matter isn't too reliable. Huh? What do you mean? Luo Nan didn't mention any information related to the retreat plan, in case it was hard to explain later on. He just explained the current situation of the isolation of the cultural industry in every major city. Then he voiced his doubts. The drummer of my sister's band has already left the band. The replacement hasn't gotten used to it yet. They've lost a large chunk of their sales. And it's rock and roll, a niche genre. The so-called fan club is far too unreliable, including something about debuting again in Bancheng. Does that management company think that throwing money into the ocean is very interesting? So you suspect. Octopus took another breath and raised his eyebrows. He took off his gold-rimmed glasses, and his gaze turned fierce and fierce. Someone's up to something. Luo Nan never expected Octopus to have such a big reaction. He even subconsciously looked back. It's just a suspicion. After all, there are many things in the field of entertainment that involve throwing money and listening to the music. I just want to understand. If we exclude the normal business activities of the company, is it possible that there's someone in the background who's paying for it? Some other scheme. Does our society have connections in the entertainment circle? It would be best if we could inquire about it. Having said this, Luo Nan suddenly recalled that Mingtang culture, which Moya belonged to, had the backing of the Castle Financial Group. And this financial group was actually the cornerstone of the Blood Flame Order's industry in the secular world. At the end of last year, the Blood Flame Order, headed by Lady Halder, had a conflict with a branch of the Control faction that had split off. This was because the Control faction had been operating in the military for many years, and they also had Tian Bang, a great killing machine. Lady Halder's branch was no match for them. She was forced to withdraw from Xia City, and her industry suffered great damage. There was a period of time when she wanted to sell off Mingtang Culture's subsidiary companies that had strong geographical restrictions. This was to avoid even greater losses. But later, in order to maintain the diversity of communication channels with Luo Nan, the plan to sell off the company was scrapped. This was what Lady Halder had personally told Luo Nan. Luo Nan didn't understand or care about how Lady Halder controlled her industry. He only knew that the Blood Flame Order still had a considerable amount of control over Mingtang culture. This was a very good entry point. Of course, Luo Nan wanted to know what kind of results the psychic diagram would show. On the other side, Octopus used his greatest strength to control his fingers. He stuffed his glasses into the pocket of his white coat to prevent them from shattering. He did his best to maintain a smile. Nanster, don't worry. We can't do anything outside of Xia City, but we're in our own territory. If some bastard wants to play dirty tricks, we'll let them understand what it means to be too late for regrets. Ah, okay. Luo Nan felt that Brother Octopus was quite excited. He went to make a call after he finished speaking. He called his friends and dispatched them left and right. He was more attentive than his own cousin. Could it be that he was a fan of Emoya? Or was he interested in Emoya? Could this sister's charm be able to invade the inner world? Luo Nan's consciousness shifted when he thought of Emoya. He didn't need to use his eyes to see Emoya. He even had a conversation with his grandfather. She was proficient in the art of speaking. Her tongue was quick and nimble. She would occasionally make the old man laugh. This was something that Luo Nan, who had a logical conflict, was unable to do. Luo Nan couldn't help but feel envious. He sighed. Chapter 736. Reality proved that some things still existed on the ideal level. They were more in line with human thinking and emotional tendencies. Luo Nan drew psychic diagrams for most of the night. He only fell asleep in the wee hours of the morning. He had a rare dream because his thoughts were too active. He was awakened by the vibration of the hexaear in this state. He opened his eyes. The sky was just beginning to brighten. He hadn't slept for more than 2 hours. Luo Nan didn't see who the person was. He answered the call in a daze. The voice on the other side carried an unconcealable sense of dejection. We've more or less investigated clearly. Xia City is very clean. It's purely Ban City that's throwing money. They won't give us the chance to get involved easily. Ah, bro octopus. Luo Nan was able to distinguish who the person was now. He spent 2 seconds to connect Octopus's words with last night's situation. Yes, Octopus had volunteered to investigate the driving force behind Moya's trip to Ban City. The results were out now. Should he say that he wasn't surprised at all? Of course, no matter how bad Luo Nan's EQ was, he wouldn't say such stupid things. And he really did need detailed information on Octopus. He needed to compare it with the vague image of the psychic diagram he drew last night. What's the specific situation? Oh, wait a moment. Let me clear my head. Luo Nan closed his eyes and slightly adjusted the flow of his blood. He waited for the drowsiness in his mind to dissipate before speaking. Bro Octopus, continue. Octopus had been restraining his emotions this entire time. He weighed his words over and over in order to avoid giving Luo Nan any negative influence. We looked up the relevant calendar. The announcement of the fan club was nominally a part of the Ban City Music Festival. The event itself is formal. It is held every year. It also invites all the famous bands and musicians from all over the world, including some up-and-coming rock bands. Mountain Stream shouldn't be qualified, right? Yes. From what we understand from industry insiders, new bands like Mountain Stream definitely don't have the qualifications to receive an invitation. But they can participate at their own expense and make a name for themselves. Luo Nan sighed, but now someone is paying for them. No one can refuse. So who's paying? Lean Century is a well-known music company in Sakura City and even the world. It's a big shot in the industry and one of the biggest sponsors of the Sakura City Music Festival. Octopus's voice finally sounded a little more distressed. Lean has done a watertight job. This year, they had indeed played a game of throwing money around. In addition to the industry bigwigs that they had invited every year, they had also appointed 3 new bands from each of the 88 metropolitan areas around the world to sponsor their trip to Banqing for free. Completely corporate behavior, through normal channels. Yes, that's the crux of the matter. Through the investigation of the flow of funds and the consultation of the people who handled it, we can basically confirm that Ming Tang culture, where Emoya was from, only saw it as a pie falling from the sky. They went with the flow and were completely in a subordinate position. Luo Nan let out a sigh. I feel like I'm being overly sensitive. No. These are extraordinary times. We can't be too careful. Moreover, there's another news about Mountain Stream's debut in Bancheng. Oh. Is there really such a thing? It can only be said to be a rumor, but it's true enough. According to a mid-level employee of Mingtang Culture, most of the bands that Li Yin appointed as sponsors are actually underground bands. In other words, they aren't signed to a company. It's very likely that Li Yin will select a few of these bands and sign them to a management contract. Mountain Stream originally had the genes of an underground band. Even though they've already signed with Mingtang Culture, it's very likely that Li Yin will take over if they're really interested. As long as the price is right, Mingtang Culture won't refuse. Luo Nan grasped the crux of the matter. Why would they be interested? This. Octopus hesitated for a moment before saying, it's just a rumor. Last month, a director of Li Yin called Yuchuan Aishuk came to Xia City and saw Mountain Stream's performance. He seemed to be very interested. What's Yuchuan again? Yuchuan Aishuk. He's a well-known figure in the industry. He also has the support of his family. He's rich and powerful. Luo Nan went straight to the sensitive part. Is he interested in the band or is he interested in a certain person? I don't know about that. In any case, after he went back, Mountain Stream's name appeared on the newly released sponsor list. It said that Mountain Stream is the only band out of the 261 sponsored bands outside of Band City that have a signed company. Yuchuan Aishuk. Luo Nan was certain that he remembered this name. Is this fellow related to the inner world? Based on the current intelligence, there are basically no traces of him in the inner world. But at their level, even if they lack extraordinary talent, they are basically inextricably linked to this side. Moreover, Band City is one of the regions with the weakest barrier between the mortal world and the inner world among all the large metropolitan areas. Various orders and gangs are like weeds in every corner. With these as a cover, the influence of extraordinary powers can be considered to be a wild growth. Understood. Luo Nan already had a plan in mind. Octopus spoke again, I'm afraid there's nothing to investigate here in Xia City. It'll take a while for news from Band City to arrive. When is Moya leaving? She's leaving this afternoon at 2:00. But her idea of traveling came too suddenly. There's still a bunch of paperwork to be done. She'll be going to the pier in the morning. Oh, has she arranged for bodyguards? Bodyguards? Luo Nan really hadn't considered this point. He was originally thinking that if Moya's trip was completed, he could rely on the entire world's mental sensor network to monitor the entire process. If something were to happen, he and Ruiwen could join hands and fight against extraordinaries. Moreover, Moya was the only one allowed to go to Band City. Why couldn't he go? Octopus still stood on the traditional line of thinking. He strongly recommended that Luo Nan hire bodyguards. For the sake of safety, sending professionals to protect is a very normal matter. Right now, the situation is unclear. Naturally, everything needs to be planned out. Plus, this way, it'll be suitable to express our attitude. Oh, it's just like in ancient times. Yelling a few times when there's nothing to do. Octopus choked, that's right. Professionally speaking, it's best for bodyguards to be a dual configuration of the physical and mental side. This way, both the meat shield and radar are present. Secretary He, Mr. Giant Arm, and Mr. Zong Ji have plenty of candidates. If you feel that a male is inconvenient, there are also excellent female candidates. Cat eyes. Luo Nan blurted out. This time it was Octopus's turn to be stupefied. He didn't expect Luo Nan to pick people so quickly. But after some thought, he felt that it was extremely good. That's right. Cat eyes is one of the best radars. She's also an insider. She can be of help. In this case, finding a meat shield will be fine. Luo Nan grunted twice, but he was thinking that if Cat Eyes went to Band City, there would be many places that could help him cover up. It would be much more convenient for him to act there. Unfortunately, he couldn't find a second person like this in Xia City. Well, he couldn't find a second person with a similar abnormal relationship. Cat Eyes is such a lazy fellow. You'll need to personally tell her about this. Octopus's voice was a bit erratic. Luo Nan responded logically, oh, that's natural. Then let's count Cat Eyes as one. I'll go contact Secretary He and the others. I'll compile a list of names for you to decide by noon. Oh right, 2 people is just a basic configuration. If you feel that it's not safe, then 3 to 5 people is normal. You don't need to worry about the expenses. We'll take care of everything. I'm hanging up now. Octopus was really full of energy. He went to do things in a hurry. Luo Nan sat on the edge of the bed and pondered a bit. He clearly organized the information he learned from Octopus. 10 seconds later, he let out a long breath. His mind relaxed, and the changes in the energies of all living beings within a 30-kilometer radius formed simple sketches. They appeared in his mind like an animation. His mind naturally focused on the family area. The sketches turned into clear and concrete images. He could see his uncle preparing breakfast in the kitchen. His aunt was in Mo Ya's room, helping her pack her luggage while giving her orders. Mo Ya was fed up from listening to them. She simply ran to the side to make a phone call. It was as if they were traveling companions. As for Mo Peng, he was awake, but he was curled up on his bed playing games. These scenes combined to form a familiar and tireless scene. Perhaps under his pen, in the unrestrained psychic map, this was nothing more than a simple silhouette symbol, but this symbol was engraved at the very core, intertwined with his life, and could not be separated. Naturally, he didn't allow any malicious intent to touch it. Luo Nan's gaze was deep and cold. He opened up the virtual work area and looked at the results of last night's labor. It was quite marvelous. He had clearly used Mo Ya as a clue to trigger events, but Mo Ya's shadow wasn't present in this picture. The elements that appeared included the silhouette of the city's steel jungle. There was also the shadow of a towering ancient tree. There was also a special silhouette that appeared twice, a luxurious cruise ship cruising on the ocean. Alright, he could basically confirm it with this. The other side's treat plan was quite persistent. They wanted to get Luo Nan on board by every possible means. Speaking of which, this couldn't be considered a treat. Luo Nan was also picking at words last night, aside from drawing. He specifically went to look up the word guest. But the word that gave him the deepest impression wasn't the word guest itself. It was another word that had a similar meaning to this word, guest. Guest could be called together, but guest meant respect. Guest meant destination. The two were symmetrical. The guest was respected and the guest was humble. The guest was big and the guest was small. The one who formulated the treat plan certainly didn't treat Luo Nan as a VIP. Instead, he only treated Luo Nan as a forceful invitation to achieve a certain goal. In short, the other side lacked respect for Luo Nan. This didn't really matter, but if this disrespect was spread to Luo Nan's family and friends, then they could need as they pleased. Then it was no wonder that Luo Nan wanted to establish the proper respect. Luo Nan let out a long breath. He got up and got off the bed. He stood barefoot on the floor. His gaze passed through the window lattice and cast towards the bright eastern horizon. The mist that came from the ocean unfurled and changed under the illumination of the sun. It was suffused with multicolored light. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.